Yes, people, better late than never. I apologise. No point in scheduling for the time and then be late. Nothing worse. You're at a bus stop. Come on, 7:30. Never mind 7:40. So I do apologise. Hi guys, Redpill Phil here. A big hi to everyone who's been sat in the chat waiting for this to start. I do apologise. I hope you've been able to get a brew, get yourself sorted. One, we've been running through a little bit of technical hiccups, which I found out was all my fault, and I'm blaming my guest. So he's going to come back again, innit? And then secondly, we've just been having that much of a good little catch-up, greet chat that we kind of wanted to stay there. And as ever, we've had to move on. So who is it that I've got as a guest tonight? Well, hopefully two. Hopefully two guests, but currently I've got one. And this one is a man that you should have seen by now. He's been around on the internet for a good while, but particularly you'll know him more for coming out with this.
To anybody here that has downloaded that app, we've heard the story that it's from a private company. It's much worse than that. Serco, that administer the infrastructure behind Track and Trace, are the largest private prison company in the UK. Every ankle tag on every prison in the UK is administered by Serco. Every private prison van that you see in the UK is Serco. Immigration centres, detention centres, they run every type of penal activity of controlling prisoners.
Yes, how succinct. A lot of knowledge in there, a lot of truths, a lot of realising and a lot of waking up to be done by the general population. And that's the man that's getting on it. Who am I talking about? Double LMC in the house with Redpill Phil. And hopefully Nicky the Pocket Rocket Locket, if he can be bothered, like, you know what I mean? Redpill Phil. Redpill Phil. Redpill Phil. Redpill Phil. Redpill Phil. Yes. How are we doing, sir?
Amazing. How am I sounding? Oh, that's too loud. 1, 2.
Yeah, you're sounding fine, mate. Yeah, I'm not going to blame you for anything ever again, mate, after that.
It was you.
It was me. It was me throwing out the white noise, and I'm blaming you for throwing out the white noise. And you don't treat guests like that, Phil. That's rule number one.
Always lucky we had a nice chat first before you started blaming me for the technical problems, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it's a pleasure to be on. Thank you for getting me on, Phil.
Mate, it's a pleasure. Thank you for taking the time out. You've took the internet by storm, mate. So much so the internet kicked back against you. Wow.
Yeah. The ripple came back, mate. The ripple came back, and it knocked me off my perch for about 3 days. But I regrouped, fully operational back within 3 days. But that was a badge of honor as far as I'm concerned. I must have struck a chord. I must have hit a nerve for them to delete my Facebook with no warning, no reason, no recourse, no appeal, and to shadow ban me on Twitter as well.
I mean, ridiculously heavy, and it's multi-platformed as well. So that shows your collusion straight away, and it shows you've got no freedom to express your freedom of opinion.
Yeah. And essentially, all I was doing was relaying information that I'd found open source on the internet. A lot of it was, most of it was from official sources. I made a few speculations, but the crazy thing is, Phil, when I got fact checked, I went through the fact checkers from Full Fact and Reuters one by one. The best things they picked me up on were this. The corporation that owns Serco, they tried to claim it wasn't the Crown. I misquoted it. I called it CCL, Crown Corporation Limited. It's actually CCS, Crown Corporation Services. Still owned by the Crown. Okay, so that's a bogus fact check. My favorite one of my claims was that the Bill Gates Foundation Trust has 200,000 shares in the particular part of Serco that does the private prisons. They said, incorrect. Bill Gates actually has 3.6 million shares.
So they've done you a favor there.
Yeah. So that was more of an enforcement to the power of 10, if my maths is correct.
Well, yeah, I mean, what's the point of fact checking if they're actually going to, in a sense, do a better job than you? I mean,
It was misquoting. It was it wasn't really fighting their cause very well.
Without a doubt, but it shows you what is going on. The element of collusion with the tech companies here is on a level that even George Orwell would be like, "What? Seriously? This was only a fictional book, guys." You know?
Yeah, because they're actually all amalgamating. The tech companies are amalgamating with the military-industrial complex, which is amalgamating with the pharma industrial complex. I mean, what's going on now is run by the Corona industrial complex, which involves many different multinational conglomerates, think tanks, foundations, institutes, ranging from biomedical science, virology, weaponry, private prisons. Because what I uncovered with Serco and the link with the technology to monitor inmates inside and out of prison. So essentially, you can monitor them inside the prison or out using ankle bracelets. That's very old technology. In Africa, they've developed something called a trust stamp, which can take a photo. It can take a photo of you, an actual physical photo, or take a photo of you as you're walking past. From one single photo, they create something called a digital hash, and it's called the evergreen hash. Funnily enough, words are important, and these certain words come up. This hash is by the human eye, it can't be identified. It's a jumble of numbers, like a QR code. Yeah. And that is your digital representation. That's your digital ID from a single photo, from a single view from a camera. They can create that, and there are currently, I believe, according to Mint Press News, anyway, 6,000 Africans which are operating on the Trust Stamp platform in collusion with Gavi, Gates Foundation, and the Mastercard payment system. So this crazy, stupid conspiracy theory that people have been talking about for 20 or 30 years of people having a digital payment system inserted into their body is no longer a conspiracy theory. It is a provable, it is a demonstrable fact that is already happening to the guinea pigs in developing countries, like some in West Africa. And that was my research from July. Okay, so things have moved on incredibly since then.
It's dystopian, mate, isn't it? When we really truly consider what is going on, the world is a fantastic place at this moment in time, Double L, for me. Because
one hell of a show, mate.
Without a doubt, I'm not a movie buff like yourself. I don't get off on the materialism and the entertainment side of it and the glorification of it either. I like my simple things in life. The one thing I do notice is how easy we're all adjusting to this dystopian world, which has come on since the corona. I mean, I was a part-time activist, or just someone who liked to cry about a lot of different things going on in the world for a couple of years before this event.
I'd like to point out the first time I ever saw you.
Yes.
When I first started investigating the whole polarized left-right divide, Patriots versus SJW thing that was happening in America, going back as far as 6 years, actually. You know, when BLM Antifa started first rearing its head, I caught a very close eye of that. And you, Phil, sir, were the first ever UK voice, which I saw on one of these. They were rather entertaining, these SJW videos. I'm not going to lie. When you see some patriot with the Pepe the Frog banner, you know, and there's some Antifa guy with a bike look, and they just get battered by a patriot with a Pepe banner. You know, it was all very, very good fun. But there's a video of this woman in the UK, and she was stood there with her empty platitudes about Donald Trump being a racist, you know, white supremacy, rah, rah, rah. And then I saw you. And you came up to her, and I can't remember exactly what you said, but it was so eloquent, it was so well put together, it was so authentic and genuine, and it put her in her place so much. She didn't know what to do, you know. Yeah. And it was like, and you know, like I told you yesterday, I'm so busy at the moment, I haven't been able to do my due diligence before I've been going on people's shows. I have a cursory look at their page, right? I literally had a cursory look at your page. I didn't realize it was you until yesterday, and I was like, yes, it's that dude. Do you know what I mean? Because I've been a fan of you from just that single thing I saw probably 3 or 4 years ago?
Yeah, nearly 4 years ago now, mate. Yeah,
you were the first UK voice which was standing up against the the progressive cultural Marxist woke tard left, or whatever this ideological monster has become. And it is an ideological monster, mate.
Without a doubt. I mean, the way it's changing people's perceptions and literally permeating down to children. Children have got this philosophy now within the school system, within the university system. And like what we were saying, now it's funny how it's this dystopia that you see, it's normalized.
Yeah.
Now preaching socialism, we scaremonger. You know, we would be really frightened probably 20 years ago. They're very thought of communism touching these shores and hitting it aggressively. But now it's our kids.
In my opinion, the hammer and sickle should be looked on with absolutely equal disdain as the swastika.
Without a doubt.
Absolutely equal disdain.
I mean, sorry, Double L, sorry. One thing I will say is what was very weird when the BLM and it was all statue purging. Why was the statues of Stalin not ripped down?
I'm sure that he massacred ethnic minorities, and anyone that didn't want to be part of the communist utopia went to the Gulag, which were just as bad as any Nazi concentration camp or Allied concentration camp or Japanese concentration camp. You know, our understanding of even official history that you can read from official books is utterly skewed. The
level of oppression that must have gone on in that time, mate, for him to have carried out what he'd done. Like you say, we're talking multi-ethnicities because that area is a large landmass. So it runs into...
And it's very diverse, very ethnically diverse.
Exactly. So by nature, he would have been oppressing and squashing a lot of people.
Exactly like the Chinese Communist Party are doing now. And I'll tell you, when I went to the protest, my first ever protest I've attended properly was the 24th in London. I had a bit of a negative view of protests before. I wasn't really into the whole ethos. And I'll tell you why. Here's the analogy I used. If a bunch of robbers break into your house and steal all your shit, what's the best thing to do? The last thing I'd do is go and stand outside of their house with a picket sign saying, please, can I have my stuff back? That is, in the words of Skepta, that is not me, yeah? I would either go and take my things back, or I think, forget that, I'll go and get some more things and make sure that these robbers can't take them anymore. I will not stand outside asking for them back, waving a sign. Right. But I went to the protest and I actually got a different impression. I saw a stand of defiance, a celebration of freedom, and people actually setting an example for everybody else that are walking past. It's okay to not be scared and to carry on your life like everything is fine. Because essentially, in my opinion, statistically, everything is actually fine. I have not found any statistical evidence yet to show, even if the official numbers are true, which they're not, that we're actually in any type of a pandemic that's anywhere past the scale of a bad flu season. We're roughly on par with the bad flu season of 2018, even if you understand the official stats, which are very dodgy because they've got the stupid rule of 28 days within a positive test. There is so much falsified information. It's like searching for a haystack of absolute bullshit to find one single needle of truth. But once you've found it, it'd
be great to pull out 10 random names and do some kind of initial recheck, back engineering of the official autopsy or the very reason why they believe them 10 people have died from COVID. And we know that's one of the other great fears is that we know there's been a lot of deception with the way they've collated the figures.
And here's a very important point, and it's not to do with figures, it's to do with words. Not many people know that the word COVID-19 is actually a conceptualized disease. It is not a virus. There's no virus that's ever perpetrated to be called COVID-19. That's a respiratory disease, which allegedly is the result of getting a virus called SARS-CoV-2. Now, SARS is a selective acute respiratory syndrome. CoV means coronavirus, and 2 means number 2. SARS-CoV-1 was SARS. MERS, I believe, is Middle Eastern elective respiratory syndrome, something along those lines. Don't quote me. So SARS-CoV-2 is the virus that we're actually talking about. Now, when people were actually dying, back when the flu season was happening, the normal cycle of the flu season, and people were actually dying, we were reporting COVID deaths, okay? As soon as that finished in, don't quote me, early June, March, they started reporting corona cases. Now, that's very, very, very important because coronavirus is a huge family of viruses. SARS-CoV-1, SARS-CoV-2, MERS, common cold, rhinovirus. There's literally hundreds of derivatives if
So
you
if
really
you
break them
change
down.
it to cases, then you're going to.
Well, it's not just cases. It's not cases of COVID. It's cases of all coronaviruses.
Yes.
So that means you could literally, and we all know how absolutely bogus PCR tests are, and how, you know, at their best guess, they're super inaccurate, and they can only pick up the recombinant RNA of coronaviruses, rhinovirus, common cold, SARS-CoV-1, SARS-CoV-2, if it exists, because that is very disputed if it's ever actually been isolated. I have a document from the Department of Health stating it has not. They have no evidence it has been isolated. The only people that claim this are 3 individual national labs. I've been one in Canada, one in Korea, and I believe one in the US. But the CDC and the Department of Health both admit that they have no evidence that they can present. There it is. There's the bad boy. The first request was made on the 24th of August. They said, we have no evidence of its isolation. The guy said, I'd like you to review that because I want to make sure that you have no evidence of SARS-CoV-2. On the 28th of October, he got the review back, and the Department of Health said, we have reviewed our initial investigation, and we conclude that it is correct. There is no evidence that we can obtain that SARS-CoV-2 has ever been isolated. Okay?
So if they've not been able to isolate it, mate, that means that you can never fully get a positive, accurate.
If you add that to the fact that we're using a very inaccurate PCR test, we're using a level of application which is twice that it should be, and this test will only identify anything within the coronavirus. It's like, I'm trying to find an analogy. It's like we're searching for something which is allegedly part of a group, and we've got a very inaccurate test which can just tell us if we've got something from the group. So it's actually inaccurate on a multi-spectrum level. It's next to completely useless. Even the guy that created it, who now is dead, before he died, he said it was never designed to isolate viruses, and it's not the way to do it. So, well, who knows? These new tests that are apparently coming out, which are being rolled out in Liverpool. Big up all the Liverpool massive. I will be visiting Liverpool on November the 21st to speak with a coalition of gym owners from the combat sports world, because they must have seen. I think they've seen my work. They know me anyway, probably from. I have a bit of an affinity with the Northwest because they gave me a big opportunity when I was unknown. There's a lot more fighting men up north than there is down here anyway. When it comes to MMA.
Let's talk about that for a little bit, because I know looking through some of your videos, you're heavily involved in that. There's industries that have been so affected by this, and obviously the entertainment.
Both of my industries, music and sports.
I was talking to a comedian several weeks ago on here, Johnny Cole, a black country comedian, lovely guy. I met him on holiday last year, and he was saying exactly the same thing. Online has been saturated now with all these virtual comedy sets, but he's a very creative guy, and he's tried to rebrand what he's been doing, but the asses fell out. He had booking upon booking. Things was looking good when he first got back from holiday, and then all the bookings have gone with no prospect of them ever coming back.
I lost when the lockdown was announced. In my diary for the forthcoming year, it was full. I can't remember. It was in between 40 and 50 shows, mostly in the UK, some international, across music festivals, boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, MMAs. I had some presenting work, all cancelled. I was lucky enough to get that international gig with Brave. I also bought, because I also sell signed memorabilia as well. That's part of the job. I do auctions as well, which is actually my bread and butter. Okay. So before this, I'd obviously stocked up for the year, bought £7,000 worth of signed gloves, boxes. I switched the stuff on the wall. It's normally signed Wu-Tang stuff because I'm a big Wu-Tang fan. That's why I started becoming a rapper. At the moment, we've got Frank Bruno and Pacquiao.
You might as well get a new sort of a.
Yeah, I had a big Anthony Joshua one, but I'm not a fan of him anymore.
Oh, man.
He upset me.
Yes.
What should we speak about that? I'll speak about that.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I mean, let me say something.
Before you say something, before you say anything, mate, can I just ask your heritage, please? Just so we know for the record.
I wondered why you asked that. I'm actually white. My parents are both white.
Right.
My dad's surname is a Gaelic surname. He's from Newcastle.
Right.
Okay, my mum's
That's bad,
family.
because I'd have said all day long you had colour in you, mate.
I've had it my whole life. Everyone thinks I'm either mixed race or Middle Eastern or Mediterranean. I guess I'm just fly for a white guy.
Well, you are, mate. Fair enough. Fair play
But
to you. Let's get back to
whether it's a good thing or not, I speak my mind, whatever. And when I speak about things like BLM, it's because of my actual love for everyone, including black people. And I don't like seeing people get horribly manipulated. Anyway, that's a whole nother subject. What were we talking about? Combat sports.
Yeah, well, no, let's get back to the boxer in tight. You were talking how you're a bit disillusioned and a bit wary of our boxing champion at this moment in time. Now, I'm assuming because of his stance with Black Lives Matter that you feel like that.
I think he was very right. Apparently, the story is that when he made that speech, I don't know if it was in Speaker's Corner, he was handed it on a bit of paper. Right. This is the story. Now, what my problem is in there is he was basically saying he was being an agent of division. He was saying that we need to only spend money don't spend the money with them. He was using the word them, the other. He was creating a division, us and the other, speaking to a bunch of black people and some white people there as well, to be fair. He said, don't spend your money in their stores. Spend your money only in black stores. That was the bit that stuck out. Now, first of all, that is a glaring criticism, because I'm going to speak very frankly here. Nobody suckles from the teat of the actual ancestors of the slave master class than people like him and Lewis Hamilton. They are sponsored by some of the biggest corporations that use slave labor right to this day, right now. Thousands of people working in slave labor for a company that sponsors Anthony Joshua, Lewis Hamilton. They are suckling the teat while they're telling everybody else to don't buy from them. Now, whether he just picked that up and he was carelessly reading it, that's still his fault. I don't give a shit.
No, I think
very irresponsible. If he means that, then he's a conscious agent of division and him, because at the end of the day, we are all in this together.
Of course we are, brother. And the one thing that he's shown himself when the chips are down. At that point, you had a chance to choose a side or stay rational in between a lot of it, and he chose a side.
What he should have said is, we should be spending our money in small, independent, family-run business, no matter what the ethnicity of the business owner, rather than spending money in corporations. That's what he should have said. That was a positive, empowering message.
But he didn't mean that double L, so he wouldn't have said that.
No, that's not what he meant. But
he said
the inversion of that. He said the inversion of that. And it's like, well, okay, well, imagine, well, let's play this out. If what he said is authentic, and all the black people and white people that were listening to him follow that, well, should all people on the other side follow that as well? And if they see a black business, definitely don't spend their money there. That's well constructive. How's that going to work out?
Dude, it's double standards. I mean,
so white people stopped buying tickets to Anthony Joshua's fights.
But this
is he doing a Lauryn Hill? He's doing a Lauryn Hill, mate. He's doing a Lauryn Hill.
Is. And there's so many of them virtue signaling on this. And the irony is, mate, is that these guys, the very reason Black Lives Matter is a conception is because they're saying they're oppressed. So for them to say that only spend your money in black shops, if white people said only spend your money in white shops,
they would be strung up for it.
They would be oppressing black people per se, because they're keeping black people down.
What could be more harmful for people than to constantly beat like a drum into them that they're oppressed, they're powerless, everybody looks down on them, they're inferior? The kind of people that want to tell you that all the time, they're your enemies, bro. Yeah. You know this. You've worked this out. You know what I mean? It's like, but sadly, I've been called every name under the sun. And it's quite laughable for me, because I'm from a predominantly white area, yeah? And when I was 13, 14 years old, and I told everyone that I'm going to be a rapper, and I was going around spitting bars and everything, back then it was not cool and it was not fashionable. And I was the only, and I got the piss taken out of me, so I've always been called the wigger. Yeah? That was always, yeah. So, I've always absolutely embraced black culture. I moved to East London. I lived in Canning Town, where I was the only West African French-speaking person within a 500, within a 2K radius, and I fucking loved it. So for someone to come to me and call me far right or racist, I just laugh it off. 10 years ago, if someone said that to me, I'd have got very upset about it, and I'd have taken them to task. Now, if someone says that, I think that's much more a reflection of the inadequacy of their ability to actually engage in discourse. It says a lot more about them than it does about me, because anyone can look at what I'm about. I'm very transparent, and if you can find any inkling of me being racist,
it shows where they're at in their own consciousness level, mate. More than anything, it's like you say, it's self-illuminating. That's not a reflection on you. That's like beamed back at them on their very core being of what they're at. They're very low intellect on that subject. And we're talking about people that are intelligent that will do the same thing here. We're not talking about IQ per se.
Someone called me a house Negro for my views about Black Lives Matter. I thought, actually, a colleague in the combat sports emceeing world who's about 10 years my senior. I think he's a child of the Windrush generation. I guess he would be, yeah. Anyway, first generation, second generation, what does matter? And I was making my views about Black Lives Matter very, very forward. I made a whole video about it, explaining exactly why I'm making this video. I support anti-racism. I support protest against police brutality of all people. And he goes, I think you're a bit confused, bro. You're acting like a house Negro. You're an Uncle Tom. And I said, well, firstly, right, let me take you to task on that. That is a disgusting racist slur. To try and suggest that a POC, which is I hate that term, that's disgusting. Anyway, another story. I said, to suggest that I'm a POC, if you think I am one, and my views, because they differ from you, that makes me an Uncle Tom or a house Negro. That is disgusting racism. And I'll say, apart from that, I'm actually Indo-European. I'm white. So I'm not of a house, and I'm not an uncle. Yeah. And you shouldn't be saying things like that. That's the words of bigots and racists, mate. That's absolutely disgusting.
And what did he say to that? Did he own at that point what he'd actually done?
He phoned me up and sort of very beating around the bush, apologised for 20, 30 minutes, saying, you're on a level. He goes, how do you have the balls to say what you say? I said, because it's the truth, in my opinion. And I speak what I believe is the truth, and that's all I do. Yeah. So,
mate, and you do it so well. So thank you to that.
Hopefully, mate. Hopefully.
Mate, you're doing a fantastic job in this comment section here. They're all loving what you're saying here. And
big up Andy Sheldrake. I saw him put Rise Above. Hang tight, everyone that watches Rise Above. Thank you so much for all the support. It's been absolutely unbelievable in the last few weeks. Through the roof, man.
With love, mate. I think love and the resonance is going to bring people together. It sounds very corny, but we know it's true. But at this point, mate, I would love you to meet a very good person that I would consider a good friend, a fellow DJ, this man with a rap sensation, a Mancunian rap sensation, and he's got the passion of a lion. So I want you to meet this guy, mate. This is Nicky Rocket, the Pocket Locket, or Nicky the Pocket Rocket Locket. Let's get it right.
Nicky.
And mate, this is double LMC. I don't know whether he's froze there. How you doing, mate? Are you in? No, he's froze. He looks like he's
hand soloed him. He's been hand solo in the Kryptonite.
We've kind of zapped
him. Frozen, whatever it's called.
Yeah, we've zapped him. I don't know what's going on there, Nicky. Do you want to bring yourself back in, mate?
Maybe boot him out and re-invite him.
Yeah, I'll try that. But yeah, so he can probably speak for himself here, but he grew up in a predominantly black area, Moss Side. I grew up in a predominantly white area, Miles Platin, which is North Manchester. Both heavily influenced growing up through the music scene. But he'll testify to what you've been saying about having that racial element because of the color of your skin. And, and I can testify to that, me growing up in a predominantly white area, having to grow up with just being treated a certain way, having transcended all that. And having probably, let's put it this way, mate, having used that as a tool in order to build myself up as well, knowing that all these bad experiences have helped.
I resonate with that a lot, mate. I resonate with that. We're here to learn lessons. And every trial and tribulation is an experience. Every experience broadens the furthest points of our perception. And that's what shapes our reality at the end of the day. There's no such thing, in my opinion, as an invaluable experience.
Yes, true. Profound.
And when I spent almost a year living in Thailand, and I really got stuck in with the locals, where I was the only Farang, which is what they call Westerners. They're very open with their racial slurs in Thailand. There's no concepts of racism whatsoever. They would walk up to you and say, "Oh, chocolate man." That's what they call black people, chocolate man. But they came up to me. They said they didn't know what it was. They said, "Mister, are you Farang, chocolate man, or Habibi?" And I was like, "What?" And that means, are you white, black, or Arabic? Farang, chocolate man, or Habibi? That someone said that to me at the airport in a uniform. Yeah. So they have zero. No concept of racism whatsoever, and it was really strange for me, because I come from down south. I've moved to London. I went very metropolitan, a university, 30, black, Asian, white, and then I went to Thailand, and that was a totally different experience again. But,
but that's going to shape and mold your perceptions, broaden you. I mean, like any holiday,
it breaks down barriers.
Well, sure. Yeah, I mean, you certainly know, as much as you come back home and you might get a little bit of, I mean, not that you, like you say, you're not of colour, but even if you was and you were getting any element of animosity, you still have a meter of what it's like and how casually racist it is in other countries as well. So that plays a part.
Yeah, I'd like to say in certain parts of Thailand, like I've actually been kicked out of a premises because of the colour of my skin. I have like a gold, I have a quite a sacred like Buddha thing here wrapped in Thai gold, and I went to go and get it repaired. And I speak Thai. I went, "What kap?" like that, and I had a lot of money to spend. And they go, no, and they looked on the wall, signed, "No Farang, no English." And they pushed me out and locked the door. And I was like, "Alina, my binai, what's going on? No problem." And I was speaking Thai, and I was showing all the money. "No English, no Farang, dirty, bad man."
Is that what you say?
Yeah, no, they kicked me out of the shop. There was a physical sign on the wall saying "No English, no Farang," and I am no normal Farang. I speak Thai. I've lived it. I know Thai culture very well. I love Thai culture. I immerse myself in it. And
even if you didn't, I mean, Jesus Christ, how condescending! You know, I mean, how arrogant as a race of people if that's how they're going to denigrate people just off the bat. You know what that reminds me of? It reminds me when I was growing up, mate. I'm not sure how old you are, but I'm 50 years of age.
I'm 37.
Okay, so this will be too early for you. There was a time that I'd just been born out of where they used to have signs in pubs: no blacks, no dogs, no Irish.
No gypsy, or travellers.
You know, so it's like all of a sudden, the Irish and the blacks all of a sudden got on together like that. Because they could see that this wasn't right. You could see overtly how you're getting treated. And we've gone past all that. We're not in that anymore. But it's very striking that you go to what is considered a modern day country, and that attitude is still there to the point where they'll brazenly. Imagine a world today where we're going to put a sign like that.
Thai people told me there's a very clear hierarchy, and I heard this from different levels of their society, from people on the street, from professionals, that there's a very clear pecking order in Asia of people. And it goes something like this. Korea, Singapore people, very, very good. Japanese people, very, very good. And it goes down sort of like, Taiwan, Thai, Vietnam. But they absolutely all think that Chinese people are absolute dirt, and they openly speak about it all the time in front of Chinese people, because I understand Thai. Yeah, so when you have a big crowd of they are super racist openly to Israelis over there. I've seen Israeli girls go into clothes shops, and they were fairly rude, to be fair, but the Thai women kicked them out. "Israel bad, we hate Israel, out, no war. We call big man," kicking them out of the shop. Wow. So that was a real, I made an effort to never act like a Farang, never act like a tourist, instantly learn Thai. So I sort of rose above that kind of treatment, because, to be fair, that a lot of people go to Southeast Asia and treat it like Sodom and Gomorrah, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I guess, like you get some elements of what we do to Ayia Napa and other resorts in the sun over here. It gives England a bad name to a large degree. But at this point, mate, I've got to bring Nicky in because...
Oh, sorry, I talk forever. How rude. Go on.
Mate, no, it's been great engaging, and we're going to carry on, but I'm going to let Nicky have a little chat. Mate, I've just took him out. Right, let me take you off mute, sir. How you doing, Nicky?
Yeah, all right. I'm doing well. Yeah.
Mate, yeah, sorry about that. Double L, Nicky Lockett, double L.
Hello, brother.
Oh, he's froze again.
I think he might have a connection problem, you know, because you and me are fluid.
Yeah, yeah. We're resonating, Double L. You know what I mean? There's no resonation coming from down there just yet.
Our tuning forks are now resonating at exactly the same pitch. You know that happens if you put two tuning forks next to each other; they start to resonate on the same vibration. Yeah,
Dude, right? This is weird, right?
I tell you what. Here's an idea. Why don't you kick me out? I'll go and refill my drink. You invite Nikki in, see if that goes all right, and then you can invite me back in.
That's fine. That's fine, mate. That's fine. Right, Nikki, how you doing, mate? Are we back on?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm all right, brother. Yeah, I'm just like nitness, you know, when you sort of like zone out as the nitness sort of quietly spoke to the back of your head. And that's what I was getting from you guys, proper ASMR shit. I was like dribbling. Like, oh, this is lovely. It's like a one lovely, yeah. So yeah.
Oh, mate, I've never heard it been described like that.
Where you're coming from.
Oh, mate, as you can see, he's an engaging guy, mate. Very intriguing. Yeah, and we've not even touched into it. And the reason why I wanted to bring you in, mate, because I know on a creative level, we've all got so many similarities here in this chat now. And I know whether we've got a similar age group, and I know we're slightly older than Double L, but we'll connect on so many different ways. And in terms of the activism, as opposed to coming from a creative position as well, I think that is something that we can probably touch on as well today. But you've got a bit of a mad sound going on in the background, mate. Now, I've got to be careful here. Last time I accused one of my guests of having like noise. Hold on 1 second, let me mute you.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, yeah, it is. It is him. See, I've got to be careful here now, because the last time I accused a guest, it was Double L, and it turned out it was me, Nikki. But I think on this occasion, it actually is you. Let me just double check to take you off mute. Won't let me take you off mute now. Won't let me unmute you. Oh, have you froze? Oh no, we're having proper technical hiccups with our Pocket Rocket Locket. I think it's because he's got so much passion. He's interfering with the waves.
Yo, 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 I'm still here.
You're still here, mate. You're back in. You're back in.
I think someone's trying to interfere with our vibrational output at the moment, mate.
They don't want them three forks tuning together, sir. That's what it is. And, you know, going back to what you were saying before about resonance, there was one thing that I thought I'm going to bring up with it, and I always tend to forget little points. But you talk about vibrations and frequencies, and you'll understand this being a DJ, that one of the first things you realize when you're a DJ and you play two records together, it creates a flange if both records are playing exactly at the same time, the same records. Now, what I learned
double drop is what we call it in drum and bass.
Well, mate, it doesn't sound
perfect double drop.
It just goes in and out, and it's a beautiful way of really just changing the dynamics of a sound. And you can do it free of charge just with 2 copies of a record as well, so you don't need any fancy bits of equipment. But what I found out recently, and maybe I should have learned this earlier, if you could have a device, Double L, that could mimic the frequency range of your vocal, and if I could then reverse that, I could make your voice disappear.
That technology already exists. I've looked into it. There's a device. It can basically create a spot of no sound by using a resonant frequency to basically, oh God, it was a couple of years ago I saw this. The device, what you're talking about, the device already exists.
Right.
I've seen it. I think it was a DARPA piece of kit. And it was basically to, they developed it by using a piece of technology that sent super directional sound. So it used sound as a weapon, so it could actually be fired like a rifle to only hit you 1,000 meters away, just to hit your chest, heat up your heart. But no one around you got hot, and it was a pure it was a heat weapon, but it was actually using vibration. And as we know, anyone that studies the way the universe works, there is no difference between light, heat, and sound. They're all vibrations. They're all just vibrations.
Everything resonates off a vibration. Everything, even solid matter, it's got its breaking point.
If I can remember this, the device looks like a cube, and you can basically put it next to you, and it puts out a resonant frequency, which like creates a pocket of no sound. So you could be stood in the middle of a festival, and this would basically around total silence. So that already exists. That was years ago. I saw that. God, I wish I had a better memory.
Man, I could have done with that. I'd have gone to every Biden campaign and just turned that knob up. You know what I mean? But it's an interesting.
You don't need to. It was all Trump fans going with horns and stuff.
Exactly. I mean, they've used the sound weapons as well with protest, haven't they? In America, they've had them sat on the back of the vehicles, and they'll to disperse.
I reference it in my tune in martial law. High energy frequency. Oh God, I wish I could remember my bar sometimes. It was it's called a 50k energy ray. Yeah, it's a 50,000 watt energy ray, and if it hits you, it feels like your internal organs are actually starting to heat up. It essentially slowly microwaves you a little bit, enough to feel like you're burning from the inside, and you drop to the floor, start puking and crapping your pants and stuff.
Double L. In a world where we're trying to get people to rise to a higher vibration and a higher conscious level, what good is that? Now, not only what good is the weapon, but what good is the person to this society to think about making a weapon like that, to apply it against another human being?
The funny thing is, those weapons are called non-lethal weapons. That's the branch that they come under, non-lethal weapons. They've got quite a few of them. Oh God, I wish I could remember another. There's one that basically shoots foam all over you and covers you and encapsulates you in a case of hard foam, a quick drying, like sort of like a insulation foam, but it fires out of a big gun. So you can literally go up to someone, spray them like out of Ghostbusters, and it sort of crystallizes in the shell. The shell hardens, shell falls over, and you've got 2 minutes to crack them out before they suffocate. So like some of the non-lethal weapons is like we'll get to a stage where weapons like that will be completely obsolete, and we are racing. I'm going to go in now. I'm going to tell you the real stuff that I've been looking
Go for it, mate. Go for it.
If this plan that's being enacted now through the mass vaccination program and ID 2020 and putting this digital patch in with the 400 miniature hypodermic needles and the luciferase and the nanotechnology that gives us a payment platform, our vaccine, our digital immunity passport and everything, and it's linked obviously to 5G, the coming singularity where every single thing on the earth is always linked to the 5G. We'll get to a point one day where there will be no need for physical weapons, no need for non-lethal weapons, because I've read all of the documents of the highest architects of this coming singularity. And, Elon Musk and his neural lace is only one aspect. There's loads of others. And they all speak unanimously about a future that comes that they call the singularity, when all digital devices on Earth are linked together as one.
Yeah, Internet of Things.
The Internet of Things. But the Internet of Things, not many people know this. The way that they envisage it, once we get to 6 or 7G, is that there'll be 50 or 100 billion nodes all around the planet, all these devices. But what is in the small print is 10 billion of those nodes will be biological, us.
Yeah.
So it's actually envisaged that we will be walking biological nodes in the 5G network. And we will have to think through the 5G. So to access the cloud, we have to go through the AI, which is in the 5G. And it will actually be symbiotic with our decision making. So they've already admitted that here's the problem. We'll get to a point when we don't know if we're making a decision or the AI is making it for us. So this is pure 1984 on steroids.
Yeah.
We get to a point where it might be actually impossible to have a dissenting original thought, because it would be instantly intercepted at the subconscious level before the conscious mind had actually registered it by the symbiotic AI. This is what they're talking about.
It makes total sense, because that's how they...
No dissent, no rebellion, absolutely impossible. No need for God, no need for drugs, nothing.
It's like Total Recall, isn't it? Input memories, input good memories.
Yeah, there's a film called Equilibrium, I think, that has this, where there's no culture allowed in the future, and they actually take a pill, and it stops them from having emotions, any thoughts. They're just like literally just autonomous NPC robots.
The one thing that we can say for sure is all the curtailments and the projection of the next 20, 30 years, it all revolves around lack of individualism, lack of liberty,
lack of freedom.
Lack of freedom and what we derive as living.
Lack of humanity, mate. Literally a lack of humanity. We are going to be turned into units of a machine. There is no truer metaphor on earth than the first Matrix movie of what they literally plan to do to us. We won't be in little sacks. We'll be. Someone sent me earlier on a clip from Judge Dredd, the latest film, and the mega cities, where, you know, Earth is a squalid wasteland, and everyone just has a little box in their communal government-owned mega city, which is a ghetto, basically. I said, yeah, that's a pretty poignant view.
Dark. Well, when you see the middle class going now, when you can see the promotion of communism and socialism, when you can see private property being a no-no, when you can see everything
UBI,
it's all happening. It's literally incremental there now. I mean, I was just about to put Nicky in. Honestly, he's got real.
I think he's got connection problems. That's a shame. Yeah, when I first started talking, I knew for sure 100% in the summer of 2019 that in 2020 we would start to have some form of global financial reset. I've got loads of people to contact me. And my team now is building by the day. It's crazy, the people that are coming out to fit into this network of my team that I'm forming. But I've had a guy called Guy Wood, who looks at the markets and always advises me on metals and cryptocurrencies and general trends. And in August last year, I know what the economy is. I know it's completely finished, artificially inflated for many years. I know it has to fail by its own definition, fiat monetary lending. It's a complete farce. But he said, right, it's at the state now where the balloon is so near to pop, the tiniest global event will switch it over the precipice of which it can never return, and it will spiral downwards with unlimited QE, quantitative easing, printing money out of nothing. They've already admitted there's no gold, there's no 1 out of 10. Now they're just printing out of nothing. So I knew all this in August. I started talking about it, and people, oh yeah, Lance, who do you think you are with your stupid predictions? And nobody is laughing anymore. The Great Reset's on the front of Time magazine with a picture of the world. I said this in another interview. It's like, it's there. They've made promotional videos for it. Every country is talking about UBI. Yeah. Why do you think? And this is the crazy thing. People say, why would they want to shut the economy down? It's the easiest question ever to answer. On the surface level, it's a wealth grab. And then you just need to look on the front of Time magazine. The Great Reset envisaged the 4th Industrial Revolution. So in 10 or 20 years, 95% of the people are out of the job anyway. All they're doing is trying to speed it up, do it now, so deliberately crash the economy systematically. It would like the tide of an ocean. The lockdowns are put forward and back. This is how I was managed to make this prediction, which everyone keeps going on about. How I predicted that full national lockdown of the UK would be announced on the 31st of October. I predicted this, I think, on the 2nd of October. And I said it in all of the interviews because I knew it was going to happen. Do you want to know how I knew?
Go for it.
It's a very rare lunar event this month. There are 2 full moons. The first one was on October the 1st, and that's when Boris, and that's the rule of what some people call the rule of 6, but I think it's the rule of 666. 6 people, 6 feet apart, 2 meters, for 6 months. So on the first full moon, he made that announcement. These people understand the significance of the energetic power of these days in the lunar and the astrological calendar. Well, lo and behold, this month is very unique. On the 31st, Halloween, All Hallows Eve, a very significant day for dark occultists. That's their Christmas day, All Hallows Eve. Okay, whether people want to believe it or not is irrelevant. The most powerful people on planet Earth believe that is a very powerful day. It's nothing to do with pumpkins. Oh, we got him? So,
yeah, it's like that. It's that geometry, isn't it? That sort of when God made the world, He made it with letters and numbers. That's letters and mathematics. That's how God built the world. So in certain parts of sort of, Jewish culture and way back when numbers and the sort of the representation of each symbol of the alphabet and how you add them up and stuff like that. It's called geometry, and it's really deep, and it's like, it's weird. It's like one of the main ones recently was like Kobe when he died, the number 44, and how it's sort of, you know, tracked and stuff like that. So, you know, so numbers to the elites, whether we believe it or not, this is the code they use to speak to each other.
Absolutely.
Professor Griff talking about this 20, 30 years ago. Professor Griff, he was talking about the codes that the elites use. David Icke was talking about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's how we talk to each other. Some people think it's really weird, you know, it's down to what colour jacket a couple of people wear in the news. But, you know, but on a bigger scale, this is how that Luciferian, you know, crew run, man. They run with numbers, they run with symbolisms. It's ingrained in all of us, you know what I mean? From the way they do, you know, shape buildings.
It's ingrained into the universe. So the reason the 31st is significant is not just because it's Halloween, it's also a second full moon. Now, it's a harvest moon because of the time of the year. It's also a hunter's moon, which is quite rare, but it's a blue moon. You know, they're saying once in a blue moon. Well, a normal blue moon's every 3 years. I read that this event, the last time it happened in 1955, my missus has looked into it, and she reckons the last time it was a blue hunter's harvest moon with 2 full moons was like thousands of years ago. So I learned this on the 2nd, and a lot of my work is intuition, right? I've done a lot of research, but now, and I'll say this candidly, right, 90% of my work is reverse engineering. I look at a topic and I use my intuition, and I always trust my gut. I knew that on October the 31st, and everyone was asking me, when was it? I said, October the 31st, it will be announced. Now, how do you know that? Once you understand how these people think, they are super predictable. They're very methodical. They use codes, numbers, dates, colors, like a system and a blueprint. So I knew it, and I always trust my gut, because your intuition, your intuition is driven by the subconscious. The subconscious sees everything. Your conscious mind edits, it's very selective, it forgets, it has preconceptions, it has misbeliefs. The subconscious mind sees everything. And when that little voice, your intuition, that's where it comes from. So I always trust that.
Double L, you bring me on to a point that will take us off this slightly, but you've set the stage up well. We were talking about consciousness. We were talking about how people, it's not really clever now to start going around calling everyone sheep and whatnot, because we need people to wake up. What do you think it is that's preventing them actually realizing what is going on now? What kind
exactly
of
what it is? It is decades, well, it's centuries of understanding, decades of practice, and billions of pounds invested through things like the Tavistock Institute in slow drip trauma-based mind control. Now, it's so obvious to us what's going on. I honestly think there is not a single person on planet Earth that could spend 1 hour with me with a good internet connection, and I could show them that would not understand what's going on. The reason that people can't see it is because a certain group of people have invested billions of pounds and decades, or maybe centuries of research into a complete and utter fundamental understanding of how our brain works, how reality works, and the relationship between those two things. They understand that we have a much more symbiotic, creational relationship with reality than we think. We are not passive observers. We're actually much more protagonists than we think. And that's been hidden.
The problem that we've got is that they're going about their duties with the realization of that, with the full purpose of closing down man's true potential, isn't it? That's
absolutely. It's shutting us down in every way. They're trying to limit our human interactions. They're actually stopping us from expressing our emotions by making us wear a mask. I really fear for deaf people's mental health, because imagine if you're deaf and you rely on lip reading and people's face to judge emotions, and now that's a really silent world. That's heartbreaking.
You know how you say the windows are a soul a window to the soul. And I've yet to see anyone with a mask on with what I regard as happy eyes. Does that make any sense?
Totally. It looks like their eyes are dead too. And because I make a point in the supermarket when I walk in, and everyone's looking at me because I'm not wearing a mask. I look into their eyes really deeply and smile, and I try to connect with everyone that's sort of looking at me like that. And it's like I'm looking straight through them. There's nothing there.
Sad, innit?
V for Vendetta said, if you wear the mask long enough, you forget who you are behind it. This is a ritual, humiliation, and obedience ceremony. So it's I study MK Ultra. I study ritual abuse techniques. I study some really dark things, man. And I can recognise what they're doing. They're doing it very slowly through repetition. They're not locking you in a room and getting a stun gun and breaking you down. They're doing it very slowly.
It's incremental, mate. But at this point, I've been speaking a lot. Nikki, I know you've got a bad signal, mate, but we can still just about get you. Is there anything you want to say at this point? And now I want to go to some clips because I want to show you some clips.
Yeah, I mean, the mask thing, I get the ritual humiliation. That's how it rolls. You see it all the time. But the mask thing, the practical side of it is also, they're big on practicality. You know, you do the practical, you respond to sort of stuff like that. But the practical side to wearing a mask is you're fucking poisoning yourself. You know, you're breathing in carbon dioxide. People feel ill wearing a mask because they're fucking dying of hypoxia. And that is affecting how people think. It's impulse behaviours, man. It's the God. I mean, just the simple fact that, also the fact that he spent 300 million on a load of masks that they never fucking needed, so they got to force them down our throats. But that aside, the mask idea came up and has been around for a long time, and it is to slowly drive the public crazy. You know what I mean? By breathing in carbon dioxide. You know
well, they are ineffective if they wanted to truly combat.
You know, they're very efficient. You know what I mean?
Of course they are. And we
all
know
everybody that they're going to die. You know, that's a small feat.
Mate, this is, for me, this is the biggest gaslighting event the world has ever seen. And
massive
9/11,
gaslighting. Massive
9/11 was a good one, wasn't it? And, you know, and even then, the amount of stick that people got for actually wanting to free think through that period. And now it's almost like you look at them same people that were going to call you the tinfoil hat wearer. And a lot of them will be going, whoa, you know, a lot of it's clicking into place. Now I should have seen it.
Do you know what's really funny on the subject of tinfoil hats? People are actually now making a killing of whole ranges of clothing, including beanie hats that have actually got EMF protection in them because of the actual real threat from EMF. Yeah. At the protest, a guy came up to me. He's Earth Strong Organ, and he gave me this EMF protector to put on the back of my phone. I always big him up. So like now,
do you want to big him up now, mate? Big him up now if he's done that for you.
No, I've said it already on the channel, but it's Earth Strong Organ, so it's Organites. So yeah, check him out online. But yeah, so you can actually buy really nice looking tinfoil hats now that really protect you from EMF. So that's quite funny.
I'm gonna get one. I'm gonna get one and wear my tinfoil hat with pride. You know what I mean?
I've got a wallet that protects me RFID.
What's that, Nicky?
Look, yeah, double L. Did you ever read the CIA disclosure thing about how cannabinoids and actual, you know, good green marijuana and like everyday marijuana was a big no-no for the CIA because it prevents all sorts of that MK Ultra shit and stops you being hypnotized. You know what I mean? So it was already a study that, you know, cannabis was bad, man. You know what I mean? Because they're fucking, you know, the sort
it was a block off
technique for the 50s wouldn't work. Yeah.
So MK Ultra, MK Ultra didn't work on habitual weed smokers.
Really?
Here's the funny thing, right? Someone the other day was trying to discredit me. He said, "Look, I've watched your videos. You're a very talented guy, but I think you've come to some crazy conclusions because when you do your research, you have been known to smoke a joint." And I thought, and you know, I said, look, at the end of the day, he was a boxing trainer. I said, look, at the end of the day, if you were making an argument, I wouldn't try and discredit you by asking how many times you've been punched in the head. Because he's like, how much do you smoke? But like you said, it's been actually proven by the CIA that having those cannabinoid receptors active in your head actually stops you from being susceptible by the kind of slow drip. Tavistock Institute, MK Ultra, all comes from the Third Reich. It actually stops you from being susceptible to it. So it's by no accident that there is a large proportion of recreational people that enjoy recreational cannabis that seem to be more awake. That is no coincidence. That is a direct positive correlation, in my opinion.
Does this ring a bell, mate? No woman, no cry. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Get up, stand up. And what was it he said, apparently?
My favourite thing is that Robert Nesta Marley said is a small axe chops down a big tree. That's my favourite.
Yeah, I think he was quoted as saying, I can't take a day off because the dark chooses not to take a day off. It was something along the lines like that. And
that's
this was
exactly how I feel.
It is, though, isn't it? It's a constant battle, isn't it, Double L? And that doesn't make you a martyr. It just means that this is a highly animated time that we are living in.
And it's speeding up. It's speeding up exponentially. The more things that happen at a higher rate and a higher intensity actually speeds up our perception of time. I've studied things like Terence McKenna's I Ching and moving towards the transcendental object at the end of time he calls the eschaton. In my last speech, I talked about the Schumann resonance. I don't know if you know this. It's the pulse, the electromagnetic pulse of the Earth. First discovered in 1950. I'm squeezing this in. It was a resonance of 7 hertz. Every piece of telecommunications on the Earth was based on it. All of our telegraph poles, all of it, always 7 hertz. 1983, they create the internet, and it starts speeding up instantly. When I started reading about it, it was at like 10 or 11. So this was in the early 00s. They said if it ever gets to 13, so by the time it got to 12, apparently a 24-hour day, as experienced in 1982, now feels more like 16 hours. So you know how everyone always says that time is literally speeding up?
Wow.
Well, did the generation before you say about time seems to go quicker? Is this actually a generic thing that all generations say, or is it something just for the generations that have been alive to witness the change since 1983? Yes. Because even on a quantum clock, now I might not be accurate with this, from that 83 to now, a year is a couple of seconds shorter, and a quantum clock doesn't lie. So although we're perceiving something now that is going quicker, and that was at 12, listen to this, in 2017 it hit 36 hertz on the Schumann resonance. 36. You can watch it on a graph, it's measurable, yeah? Now, here's the crazier thing. Throughout what I call the Great Awakening that's going on now, and throughout lockdown, you can watch the graph on the Schumann resonance, and on days of big geopolitical unrest, declassification, it goes off the scale, yeah? The Schumann resonance is intrinsically linked with human consciousness. And I'm suggesting, and it's not my original idea, other people have come up with this as well, that the reason it's speeding up is because the internet was created and we started sharing information at a higher rate. We essentially created a neural network between everybody on the Earth. The faster the internet gets and the faster the speed of our sharing of information, the Schumann resonance is getting faster and time is speeding up.
Wow.
So if you don't know about the Schumann resonance, there are many internet sites that follow the graph, and it's super interesting to juxtapose it with world happenings. It's kind of crazy. I mean,
we got on this before, mate, and this same again. It's brought it back to a nice point, really, of conscious levels and vibrations, and how, on an independent level, people seem to think that they can't have that ability and power on their own. They need to be in a group to protest, but at the same time, on an individual level, you could be on your own and feel the power of 10. 1 for your knowledge, 2 of your composure and your way of being. And that is enough to slay anyone who can see it. And they know it and they can feel it straight away. And I feel you have that vibe, sir.
Thank you.
Very knowledgeable, very composed. You certainly know how to put your point across in a slow, educated manner, which goes back to what we were saying before about the traits that we've not spoke about this on air, but
I mean,
started off the conversation with the traits that you've learned over the years has brought you to this point.
And it's very varied. It's very varied. You know, I've learned to speak to people that are completely off their face in a huge crowd going mental, to people sat with dinner suits, people spending thousands of pounds, literally thousands of pounds, to blood-soaked combat sports rings. I've done the lot, so I've really learned about communication. Words have always been my thing. I don't know. People keep saying you're made to do this. You're made to do it. I do kind of feel like my whole life has been leading up to this, because there is a reason that I've spent 20 years sacrificing my social life, a lot of bookings as well. People have been put off me because of things I've been exposing over the years. I've always known there was a reason that I was looking into all this crazy, insane stuff. And I'm not going to lie, in my head for years, I've been practicing and rehearsing how to explain this to people. I knew that I don't care what anyone thinks about what I'm saying. If I'm blowing smoke up my own ass, if I'm chatting shit, I knew that there'd be a time when I would have an opportunity to hopefully help explain what's going on to people. Because what we're being led to believe, like I said, billions of pounds and centuries of research has been invested into the level of deception that people are witnessing right now. And the divide now is so strong, it's almost, and me and my fiance speak about this a lot, it's almost as if there are two completely alternate timelines happening simultaneously. People on our timeline can see this divide. They can see what's going on realistically, and they can see the people that have been deceived. But the unfortunate thing is...
Double L, sorry, mate, I don't like butting in, but, mate, them tuning forks are resonating, sir. Right?
That's what I'm trying to do, mate. I'm trying to vibrate.
I put little pointers. I very rarely use my pointers, but just in case. I'm sorry, Nikki. I'll bring you in a second because I know you want to ask Double L a question, right? I've put here, where are we? Parallel realities, media, and what reality is happening, what really is happening. So what I'm saying is that explains what you're saying in terms of the media and the way people perceive it, who are not on a conscious level at this moment.
Maximum
and actually
polarity.
What we see with the glasses on. Mate, sorry to do that to you.
No, that's fine. It's fine. 2020 vision. So what I'm trying to say is that through this massive investment from dark occultists, they've essentially completely brainwashed, and there is no other word for it, brainwashed people into accepting a false reality and thinking that anyone that questions it is by default insane, dangerous, far right-wing Nazi, white supremacist, whatever. However, I believe that we are living in a vibrational realm, and these two parallel universes, the Kali Yuga and the Vedic texts talk about the time of maximum polarity, when the two sides of the binary, the dualistic universe, are pushed to the maximum before they come back together. I don't know if we've reached that point yet, but I want to try and be an agent of trying to get the resonant vibration closer and try and get as many people from that false timeline onto the correct timeline. Because, here's an analogy I'm going to say, Red Pill Phil, and you'll like this. Every person has to take the red pill at some point, whether they like it or not. It's much more pleasurable and digestible to take it of your own free will with a glass of water offered by your friend. But don't wait, because there'll come a time when no one's offering you that glass of water, someone's kicking down your door, and you're going to take that pill dry. And that is no fun whatsoever.
Horrible.
It's horrible. It can break people.
So what I'm getting here, Nick, mate, you engage with Double L, because I know you've been sitting there patiently. But honestly, dudes, I am loving this chat.
Me too, mate. Me too. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I want to know if have you ever heard about sort of looked into these, what we call back in the 50s, 60s, and I think they're still about, but they're like some sort of opus today. They're called the Fabians. Fabian. It's like a political social party. Yeah.
Fabian Society.
This guy that I've heard. Yeah. Right, well, they were big. They are like, there's a guy called Jason Horsley. Anyway, he wrote a book called The Vice of Kings. And this guy, he came from, his grandfather was a sort of a big time dude. He owned a chain of sort of delivery things. He was a rich guy, his granddad. And he was the guy who came up with the peace band, the bomb sign, that upside down circle with the thing in it. He actually came up with that. And this guy, Jason Horsley, was raised in a family like that, sort of upper class, and then got into, he basically got into Crowley and became one of them guys, and, started following a couple of these Canadian sort of offshoots of Crowley, wrote a couple of books. Yeah. And basically what he's done is that he's realised that the amount of social engineering that has been going on since, way back when, and you can't put a stamp on it because one society turns into the next over time, do you know what I mean? You just pass on the baton. But the amount of social engineering that he was witnessing as a kid and what his granddad was into with the actual, this ban the bomb sign and the sort of thought that went into it because of the symbolism, you know what I mean? And then lying about what it represented, you know what I mean? It's like something you don't even know you're learning. The social, you know what I mean? The sort of social
levels of initiation.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And these, they're all sort of fingers on the same hand. Do you know what I mean?
I understand it. I understand that quite well, yeah.
We've been through lots of sort of,
hundreds and hundreds of years,
you know
of investigation into the lesser and the grand arcane, what's it called, of the occult arts.
I think for some reason they've been triggered. The elitists, the Luciferians, whoever the fuck you are, whoever they are, central bank, whoever.
Yeah, they're running out of time.
In the past 10 years, exactly. Because I
There's
think the Great Awakening is, well, I think the actual fact that people are going to sort of simultaneously just realise that, it's not going to work. They need to, they're pushing up their timetable, right? Maybe because,
they've pressed all the buttons at once.
And with the internet, obviously, has been the actual change in our evolution. Do you know what I mean? And they're trying to push humanism because all these societies are all into transhumanism. It's all about shit, track and trace, whether it's money, whether it's blood, DNA, any fucking excuse they can come up with to stick that chip in your arm, because that's a big part of their Luciferian or whatever it is belief. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like it's sort of so
Nicky, it's a light and dark, isn't it? It's a light and dark. It is as simple as that in a sense. It's an energy thing, this.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. It is. It's what you said is very important, Phil. It is light and dark because this knowledge in itself is not evil. And I've studied this very, very well. I'm going to say something I have never said on camera before. I understand most the elements of Freemasonry as much as you could possibly gather without going to a lodge, and you can get a lot of stuff online. I understand natural law, the power of frequency, and sigil magic, the power of symbols, the power of colours, and I incorporate that in my work. I designed every aspect of this for a very particular reason. I understand the power of symbols and memes, mimetic magic. Some people think that Pepe the Frog is just a joke. That's no joke.
No.
Yeah, symbols and memes. Imagine what a meme is, yeah? Think about what the original meme is, Egyptian hieroglyphs, because they say an Egyptian hieroglyph, right, was a pictorial symbol, but it wasn't a word or a letter. It had much, much more meaning.
Yeah.
It actually conveyed like a whole sentence or maybe a paragraph, right? So that was the original meme. Now, what has been the big explosion the last 4 years? 4 years ago, 5 years, I didn't know what a meme was. Now it's like the #1 way to communicate. So memes are very, very powerful. You can convey a message that is cross-platform, cross-language. It invokes people's memory, which makes them nostalgic. So that's something in the past. It makes them think in the moment, and it can actually affect their future actions. That is magic. That is a definition of magic.
For such a short thing, and using an external force like technology, because the communication between two people, 100 years ago was never using any form of devices. It was old school. So we have, I guess what you're saying, we've evolved. Not only with the technology, but on our perception and how we use it and how we lean on that to be a human being, essentially.
Yeah, I mean the internet has been the biggest double-edged sword for them because it sped up our knowledge and understanding, but they've used it against us as well. And I think this is part of what the transhumanism is. They want to get that link inside of us so they can actually bypass our own free will of how we use it. So at the moment, you can learn everything on the internet, or you can be completely brainwashed. One or the other. Once that's inside you, it's making your decisions. That's finished.
Yeah, go on, Nicky. Go on, mate.
You bring up a good point. you bring up a good point about the memes. I mean, the whole Article 13 thing and that, the whole, third party copyright strikes are all based on the idea that they don't want us to communicate. And comedy, right? People with a sense of humour, right? Do you know what I mean? It's like, if you've noticed, right, the left, cliche, whatever, right, in quotes, haven't got a fucking sense of humour, right? Because somehow this social engineering has really took away their ability to find happiness. They're all fucking miserable. They don't understand sarcasm or banter. You know, half the people that are screaming and shouting about racism, it's all half jokes and shit that they're losing their minds over.
Nicky, how have we got to here? Nicky, sorry, mate. No, but how have we got here, Nicky? How have we got to the point now where this is the way we talk? And you're not to blame because this is a situation that was presented to you. We're here as free human beings of a certain resonance, we don't regard ourselves in any pigeon camp, but yet you've got the left that will regard themselves as a separate species intellectually and everything else, to the point where they isolate you and your train of thought. How can two human beings do that to one another if ultimately they're going to ascend to the next conscious level?
They're not, are they? Because you've seen the movie Idiocracy, right? Where people just regress into fucking burger eating monsters, and in a world where they're feeding plants lemonade, right? I mean, critical thinking has been, it's been attacked, and comedy is critical thought. You basically break something down and you laugh at it. You know what I mean? Sense of humor is objective. Everybody's got a different one. But if you want a perfect example of sort of absolute hubris and the willing to piss in your face, right, is Elon Musk when he sent that car to space. Rocket Man. He sent a car to space. I've seen the footage. This guy in Jeranism, called Jeranism on YouTube, and he basically recorded the thing, and there was a glitch halfway through the thing, and it's a car with a spaceman in it, with no lid, going into space, with David Bowie's Rocket Man playing. It is the most appalling piece of cinematography I've ever seen in my fucking life, right?
It's rubbish. It is rubbish.
It is absolute garbage. And they're laughing at you. They're laughing at us.
Yeah. And it's mockery, pure mockery, mate.
Don't even question it. Don't even question it. They have to be told. They're being told this is the future. So they go, oh, thank you. Instead of actually going, nobody really knows the future. Elon Musk sent a fucking car with a blow-up doll to space, and everybody give him another fucking pat on the back.
The tires didn't even pop or nothing.
No.
Right, have you ever seen it? Right.
It
gets better.
Oh, just get the fuck out of here. Insane.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Still floating about.
On the latest launch of a rocket, I think it's one of his satellites he showed, and it's a close-up of like the I guess like the chassis, the body of the rocket going through space with the fire coming out. And you can quite clearly see it, and I watched it on the official feed. I double checked it. This is the official feed from SpaceX. A small thing runs across the body of the rocket. It stops, and then it's a mouse. It is clearly a mouse. Right? I've showed it to loads of people. They're like, that's fake. That's fake. That does look like a mouse. No, it's not. It's not fake. That is the genuine thing. Anyone can Google it and look for, say, mouse on the SpaceX rocket, and you'll see it is the original feed. And there's clearly a small rodent creature that runs across the rocket. Now, obviously, that rodent ain't in outer space. No way. No. So, you wouldn't allow that to happen if you were trying to deliberately fool people. I think it is some sort of joke or mockery at some level.
It is total mockery. It is part of the ritual humiliation. There was a guy looking on Mars. He had a fucking Mars thing. He found mushrooms, right, on Mars. It's about 8 years ago. He took pictures of fungus on Mars. It should have been big news. Oh no, man! He had to try and take fucking NASA to court to get the pictures because they said no. He's only.
This is the problem. This is what gives rise to
Yeah,
flat Earth theory.
They've got cameras in the desert. It's obvious that they're laughing at us. Maybe they have got one on Mars, but that day, on in the middle of the desert and filmed a fucking mushroom come up, right? And then a guy pictured it, right? He should have been a fucking Nobel Peace Prize winner. Oh no, there must be something wrong. He's still fucking fighting him in court.
Right, Double L, I've got to say at this point, mate, Nicky has got the passion of Tesla's experimental electricity. He could generate enough electricity to literally sort it all out.
I feel that passion. Big up, mate.
You know what I'm saying? And also, what comes from Nicky is a certain brigade called the 77th Brigade. They live on this channel every time Nicky's here.
Our 77th Brigade, helping to quash rumours from misinformation, but also to counter disinformation. Between 3,000 and 4,000 of our people have been involved, with around 20,000.
3,000 or 4,000 people.
Big up to the 77th Brigade. I've been fully briefed by my security advisor about them and their modus operandi, their activity. And what I'm just going to say to all of the good people, the good men and women that work there, the good human beings that we're all, you're the same as me. If you look at my work and you're critiquing it, please listen to what I'm saying, because remember, if I'm authentic and I'm telling the truth, what's going to happen is going to apply to you and your family just as much as anybody else. And I'm doing this for everybody.
But
people in the army and the police are not our enemy.
It's a lot.
Right. Well, this moves on to another. What we're talking about. We're talking about, if you understand what I mean, guys, a Horlicks moment. Yeah, is that how I interpret what you're talking about?
What do you mean by that?
Horlicks moment. Remember those series of adverts where a parking attendant would be going out slapping tickets on everyone with callous, no feeling, no sense of understanding, and then going home of an evening and quite happily drinking their Horlicks. And I think the caption come at the end, how can you enjoy your Horlicks or something like that? In other words, I think you've got a conscience for what you're actually doing.
I hope they do.
Well, this is it. I mean, you try to tap into the conscience of the 77th Brigade here. Now, I'm going to slip onto a video that's going to touch into these subjects. I love it when guests actually help me to nudge me along. I'm going to show you a video, and it's going to be in two parts because I have to cut it down into 30-second clips. And this scratches into the Horlicks moment that you're explaining there, Double L. But just tell me what you think. You may have already seen it. And for anyone else, you may have already seen it. If you haven't, check this out. This is the consequences of where we're going. And this is how callous some establishments can be for merely doing their job.
So let's just make this very clear. My nan, my 97-year-old nan here, who we have taken from the care home because we haven't seen her for 9 months, is now being taken back by force to her care home. My mother has been arrested. My mother is in the back of the car here. She is a nurse. She is a fully qualified nurse who is wishing to care for her own mother.
That's the first one, mate. There's another section before, just another 10 seconds of it.
And here we have an incredible use of police time to take my 97-year-old grandmother back into a care home where she is deteriorating, where we haven't been able to see her for 9 months. Nan, I love you, and we are going to fight for you. Yeah, because do you know why we're not going to stop filming this? Because everyone needs to see how ridiculous the situation is.
All in all, I'll do it later on. We've got one adult female in custody for allegation.
What's your thoughts, Double L?
Makes me emotional, mate. I've got 3 words: crimes against humanity.
Totally agree.
I'm not surprised by it. I mean, I'm shocked by it and it's made me emotional, but I'm not surprised by it because I'll tell you, anyone that's watching here that's shocked by that, you think that's bad, worse is coming. Isolation camps are being built in Canada. There's talk of Chinese troops on the American and Canadian border from very good sources who are going to be administering these isolation camps. So the problem is, it might not even be the good people of our military that have some affiliation to their homeland and their own people that could be enacting this. Could be people, it could be overseas, UN, Chinese Communist Party. Because I have no doubt that there is some authenticity in that. There is a massive link between what's going on in America with the unrest and Chinese CCP connections. So at the end of the day, what's being rolled out is the blueprint. They are the blueprint of what's being rolled out. So they're the progenitors of the system that is they're attempting to make global.
Yeah.
That's absolutely disgusting. I mean, even I'm a little bit shocked by that. What risk is taking home a 90-year-old woman to the family home to stay within the rule of 666 bubble, which is another thing in itself? What risk is that?
Did you see the look on the grandma's face when she was She was like in another world while all this was going on around her. And as it looked like the granddaughter had bent down, and do you see the look on the grandma's face as she looked to the camera?
Absolutely breaks my heart, mate.
You can't comprehend.
I honestly don't know if I'll be able to keep my composure in that situation. The problem is, right, you can't fight a force that's got the ultimate monopoly on violence, and that's why my movement is called Rise Above. It's not Rise Up.
True.
Because when you rise up, you've got to break through the ceiling, and you've got to use resistance to get through what essentially is physically an unstoppable force.
Well, let's look at it this way, Double L. Violence in this scenario, we're going to last 2 minutes. They've got the upper hand when it comes to the logistics, the weaponry, and everything else in order to cage us in. And not only that, soon as we show 2% of that, that gives them the justification to boom, full-on police state.
That's exactly what they want. I explained all of this in my tune, Martial Law, and the chorus is like, who invited the military here? Who did that? It's the people that got violent at protest. They invited the military here by their own acquiescence and their consent. These dark occultists, they might be enacting an evil plan on us that's been in fruition for centuries, but they do believe in free will, believe this or not. So they believe at some level we have to acquiesce and we have to consent to what's going on. So whether they write it in a report from 20 years ago, or they put it in subliminal messages within movies, or they put it in the Sage report very openly, where they tell you exactly how they're using methods straight from the Tavistock Institute, fear-based mind programming. It's all in that Sage report. There's literally columns about how they can literally simulate and induce more fear into the public to create compliance. Yeah? People are very open about what they do. But the good thing is, and I said this recently in Bournemouth, I said the good thing is because they're so open about what they do, they're very predictable. And once you know their modus operandi, you can see it from a 40,000 feet altitude view, because they have no power of creation. They have no original thought. They don't operate like us. They are more like a machine or a hive mind.
No,
so
you're right.
Once you know how the
AI mentality is, isn't it? I mean, what
the AI is already here. It's been here for a long time.
Their train of thought is AI. I'm on about their initial agenda as well. What we're displaying here and what people are displaying in the chat is true living, individuality, and human beings. You know what I mean? And I think that's where we're in this battle, where they want to turn us into something, and we just want to live and be exactly what a human being should be by living.
If I really spilled the beans on the darkest, deepest corners of what I've uncovered through reading scores and scores, maybe hundreds of different reports from the architects of the future, if I really spilled the beans, it's so fantastical what I think they really want to do. It goes so way past just administering 7 billion doses of a vaccine. It goes way past that vaccine having a digital quantum dot tattoo, which is a payment system for the new global reset, one world government thing. It goes past that.
Yeah,
what I believe actually.
Depopulation. I mean, that's the end game.
If people think this is far-fetched, look at it this way, right? If you were a farmer, a very industrious, very successful farmer, and you've got thousands of livestock and cattle, you want to manage them very effectively. And you can just go to a modern farm and you can see the way that they do it. They either use ankle tags, but they don't anymore. Now they're using RFID chips and biometric implants inside the cattle to constantly monitor their health, going back to an app on their phone where they can look at graphs every day of the health of the cattle, their movements, their diet, just maximum efficiency. At the end of the day, If you want to be the best, most efficient farmer or shepherd, you want utter and complete control of every aspect of your herd or your farm.
You bring up a brilliant point, mate. The irony is,
we microchip our pets.
We do. Well, we tend to call other people sheep that we feel that are not red-pilled. In reality, we are all the sheep, and we are being governed by the sheepdog. And let me ask you this one question, mate.
Anything.
How does it feel for you as an individual once you realise that everything around about your life was conceited, deception, and you were living in an ultimate gamed system?
I'll tell you something. My oldest memory that I can remember is not of actually a waking conscious moment. It's of a dream. It was a recurring dream throughout my whole childhood. And I reckon I had it from as long as I can remember, 4 or 5 years old, right up until 12. The situation, the place was different. The people were different. But the recurring theme was a bit like an 80s horror movie where there was this impending happening or doom, this impending doom that was going to affect everyone. No one knew about it. I was trying to warn people about it in the dream every single time, 3 or 4 nights a week. The problem was I never knew what the details of it were. I knew it was coming. I knew I had to warn people, and I knew it was important. And I had that dream for years. So anyone was about 12, and I guess it was like, how old was I? Well, 9/11 happened, 2001. So I guess I was 17. Well, then I started researching all this, and then within a couple of years, I very quickly realised exactly what that dream meant, and I realised exactly what it was, and then I started learning the details and the mechanics of what it was that was going to happen. And I don't care if anyone thinks this sounds corny or cliche. It's the God's honest truth.
What goes through your mind, Double L, when you've got to that level of where you're at, and you're happy and you're comfortable, you're rising vibrationally. You sat on a bus, you look at someone, no matter what the colour of the skin, who is probably in a lesser privileged position than yourself, in a sense that they might be struggling at that point. They might be just carrying the bag, struggling, walking down the street. What goes through your mind when you're looking at them and you're thinking, I wonder whether they know what I know? And if they don't know, how do I feel that I know something that ultimately could affect them?
This is the way that I look at it, and I'm so glad you asked me this question, because I've been called every name under the sun. I've been praised. I've had people say, who the hell do you think you are to say these dangerous things and use your platform to affect so many people? But people said I'm very dangerous. And I said, this is the only way I can explain it. I do believe in subjective truth, and I trust my own instincts 100%. I'm going to use a metaphor. Imagine if the whole world was starving, right? But everyone got a very small piece of food every day that had hardly any nutrition. So people were kept in a constant state of malnutrition, but they were alive. Imagine if that was the state through your whole life. And I've known that from as long as I can remember. I've always known that things were not as they seem. So imagine that's a situation, everyone's starving, and all of a sudden you find a massive pile of undiscovered, unlimited food with the best nutrition you can imagine. What would you do? Would you keep that to yourself, or would you point to the food so everyone else can eat? And that's the only way I can explain it.
No, I think that's a good way of putting it, because it ultimately, it makes you re-question, am I living in a society where I want to perpetuate greed? Or at that point there, do I ascend? Ascending is spreading.
Yeah, I mean, there's no, I don't know. I believe that at the end of the day, the only way we can overcome this is by gnosis. By gnosis and understanding the situation so we can rise above it and actually become tools of enlightenment to educate other people or enlighten them so that they can spread it to other people. There is nothing more contagious and nothing more infectious than the absolute subjective truth. And it's once you've seen the truth, you cannot ever unsee it. That is impossible. It's almost impossible to go back to sleep fully. And sorry, I don't like using that word. I regret using it. I don't like using sleep. You know, because it's like I say, it's not constructive. It's not about making people feel stupid. It's about empowering them and saying you are smarter than this. You know, that's how I approach people. I do it on the way to a protest. I red-pilled a taxi driver. Like I got a great one the other week. I really led him down some questions. I said, because I apologized for not wearing a mask in the taxi. He said, "Oh, it's okay." And then I said, "What do you think about this whole thing?" He said, "Do you want to know, my friend?" I said, No, I really, really want to know. Tell me. And he told me, I think we're being lied to. I think the government's lying, pushing up the numbers. I said, oh, funny state, I'm going to a protest. He goes, really? Are there speakers? Are there speakers there telling the truth? I said, yeah, I'm the speaker. And he's like, whoa, how do I know more? So I gave him my card, and I was like, one more. And it's only one. Law of one. If you get one person, that's a 100% success rate.
And he'll feel validated that someone else is appreciating, because that's a lonely
He was
place
so
when you're
glad.
thinking
He
about.
thought he was mad. He was so glad that other people had come to the same conclusions as him and were open to talk about them. For him,
So that
I saw
act
his face
alone by
light
you,
up.
mate, would have empowered him no end, because that will make him think, right, I'm actually not wrong for thinking this now.
Yeah,
So, boom,
that will.
let me go
Hopefully,
further.
he took my card, watched the videos, and he saw some of like the evidence I've presented. And I present 90% source evidence directly from UN, WHO, Gavi, Gates. I try to only use their own literature, because at the end of the day, it's all spelled out. So hopefully, he went and saw that, and now that dude is empowered. He's confident to speak his own truth, and now actually become a beacon, another resonant fork, another tuning fork of the same vibration, and that's how it spreads.
Brilliant way of putting it.
A single candle lights up the darkness, mate. A single candle.
Without a doubt, mate. And what better way is a taxi driver is constantly picking people up. Imagine by the time everyone's getting out the cab, the red pill. It's like, what? Mate, you've got constant fares. We just got to keep putting people in his cab. You know what I mean? Coming out red pill.
If the man can give is the red pill.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? One thing we're born with, and that's a thing called discernment. People don't use that word a lot anymore.
True.
Right?
Nobody knows.
It's a really, really important word. Right? So, I mean, you know, I don't basically, I'll speak to people. If they ask me a question, I'll tell them, you know what I mean? You know that, Phil. It's, you know, I'm not, unless I'm on the mic rapping, you know, I don't do a lot of sort of mingling and spreading my views about it, because most people don't like them, which is fine by me, you know what I mean? That's my version of red pilling. If I annoy somebody with what I say, you know, I'm hitting a nerve, you know what I mean? And I'll do it in a conversation as opposed to a, you know, people just seem to turn up and, you know, when there's too much information thrown at them. But the thing, discernment, is the one thing that we've all got. We're born with it, you know what I mean? And that's that little voice in our head. What's happened is, and it's been in a short space of time, because I grew up in the 70s. Yeah, there was racism. I felt racism. We all felt racism. But that racism is called shitting on the working class, right? And this whole, you know, class system and stuff like that. But one thing I do have, and that's that little voice in my head, that little light in my heart, that guides us all. And in about 20 years, you know what I mean? Yeah, I'd say that within 30 years or so, that sort of been taught out people to ignore that, because they feel silly if you open the mouth, you get called names, you know what I mean? And I think the one thing we have that they don't have, you know what I mean, is that little voice in our head. The whole thing about billionaires losing the ability to see emotions on people's faces. That's
I'd like to make a point.
It's like a whole fucking study on it, that the more money you make, the less you recognise other people's emotions.
True.
And that's a thing that is a scientific fact, right?
Well, it's a drug in itself.
We have the advantage. I do believe that, you know, the news is manipulated, and it's a very small group of the same sort of people that have the loudest voices, you know what I mean? And they've been able to use the internet against us in a lot of ways, you know what I mean? But the one thing we have that they don't have is discernment. And if you know, if there's anything I'd like to wake people up to, it's like, listen to that voice in your fucking head. Forget what we're saying. You know what I mean? You know, if one word, okay, you take that away around inside your head, bada boom, bada bing, people are thinking for themselves. We don't need to, you can't lead a horse to water, so to speak, or whatever that saying is. You can't force people to see the truth if they have no concept of what the truth is. You know what I mean? In everyday life. So
I'd like to go back, rewind a little bit. what you said about
yourself, man.
discernment
Yeah, man.
is very important. Yeah, right. Discernment is. You're right. Not many people know that word or what it means. It's to do with judgment, and words are very important. They're just like numbers and frequencies, right? Now, discernment, the ability to judge well. Now, judge, the word judgment, yeah? Words like judgment and discriminate have been made dirty words. But what do they mean?
Yeah.
Judge is to assess a situation and to judge whether it's a positive or a negative situation and judge the outcomes of a situation. To discriminate
For yourself,
is to separate things that are different, and that could be deciding the difference between a good situation or a bad situation. Like if you come up against someone that's acting very aggressive and violent, it's absolutely fine to discriminate against them and say that's the person I don't want to be stood around because they look a bit crazy and violent. So these words like discernment, judgment, and discriminate or discrimination, they've been made to be dirty words, but they're not.
It's true,
because they're actually completely neutral.
Yeah.
Words like patriotism and nationalism, they've been made to be dirty words as well.
Yeah. And same again, it's almost erased what a human being is all about here, isn't it? That's how it feels. The reprogram on what is a human being and probably the set of emotions and how we should react to certain events. They want us like a piece of pliable bleeding plasticine at this point.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's about taking away our tools for discernment.
You know, and the battling these elites, you know, the elite class, they've all got their own little groups, but they're all working to rule the world between them, I guess, is an analogy. But, you know, they are sort of, you know, they're not as strong as they think they are, otherwise they would have done this a long time ago. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
What they're getting at the moment is that they're getting consent, unwitting consent, because, you know, some clever bollocks has decided to go at the education system globally. Do you know what I mean? And sort of work it, you know, and like, you know, they say it's 20 years to sort of break down a generation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then another 10 years to have their offspring.
Ideological subversion from Yuri Beganov is what you're talking about, yeah.
So I reckon
that's KGB stuff.
Yeah, I think the fact that people aren't getting what they, for the past 20 or 30 years, people have just got what they wanted. You know, you know, they ask for something, demand something, cry and get it, and this whole, you know, identity politics bullshit's really been pushed. So now, the kids at my son's age, 14, the youngest, you know, unless he's a parent at home going, whoa, wait a minute, no, Muslim is not a, you know, it's not a race, it's a religion. You can't be a racist against Muslim, you know, little simple
absolutely.
facts like that. If there's a parent at home knowing, you know, then, you know, this generation could be lost. But I think there's more of us living longer and passing that on. So the new generation, the one that they thought they had in the bag, you know what I mean? I don't think they've gotten, you know, this generation, what is it, X, you know, the 40, you know, that generation, you know, the sort of red pill as fuck. So I just think, like, you know, there's going to be a turning of the tide and people are just going to ignore them and they'll have to slink off back into the fucking shadows like they always do. And every couple of 100 years, we pop their heads up, whoever's left, and start trying to tell us what to do. Do you know what I mean? You know, there's all sorts of rabbit holes, but, you know, compliance, obedience, these are the words that they want in you know, that these are the words they want us to live by, you know what I mean? And human beings just
but compliance and obedience are both linked with consent. That's what everyone needs to understand. Compliance and obedience, they're consensual.
And we're giving them consent.
Yeah, but what everyone's doing is they're subconsciously giving their consent without knowing it. So it is all about mass. It's not about fighting. It's not about rising up. It's about mass civil disobedience.
Of course it is.
You know what we're looking at? Only 50% of the people say this is not working. It doesn't work. It'll be over very quickly.
You know the most, sorry guys, the most simplistic way I could put this into a visual if we had a 21st century Sister Rosa moment. Now, you all know who Sister Rosa is, the lady that decided.
Yeah, Rosa Parks, yeah.
Yes. Now, that is the moment where she,
Yeah, became flat
in the
earthers.
face of
Amazing analogy. Yeah, all she did was refuse to sit at the back of the bus. Just that simple action of saying no, and this is what I said on the bench in Bournemouth, and I said, big up the Scousers, yeah, with the gyms and everything, what's happening there. I said, that small word, NO, is a very powerful word because it's like a barrier. It stops all the consensual mind sorcery and all this dark occultism through words and through, you know, applied acquiescence. A simple no, is like, it's just like a brick wall. And people just underestimate the power of that massively. And Rosa Parks is an absolute, you know, just a quintessential manifestation of that. Sitting at the front of the bus and just saying no, literally set a standard that rippled throughout our vibrational realm and changed it forever.
That's what you talk about. Remember, you always use the analogy with the brick in the water and the ripples that generate.
Yeah,
reverberate.
that Serco stuff was my brick. That's what created the ripple, which I'm just trying to ride and keep presenting. You know, I'm not going to be making a video just for the sake of it now. You know, I'm ready and poised the next time that they make a move with the next stage of this agenda, because there's multiple ways they can go. I've studied Rockefeller, Lockstep. I've studied everything, all of their scenarios. So the next time they make a move, I've got everything ready to go. All the information to lay it out. Here you go, here you go, here you go. This is how they planned it. Look, this is planned. Because, you know, if anyone's not paying attention by now and they think that this is just playing out how we're being told, then they're going to have a very rude awakening very, very soon. Because this is going to fall apart globally very, very soon. And we're going to see a massive rise in false flag Islamic terrorism that has already started. In case you hadn't noticed.
Have you noticed this circus is perpetuating again? Sorry, one minute, Nick. 1 second. Sorry, mate. 1 second. Yeah. Nick, 1 second. Have you noticed with everything that's going on, we had a couple of years ago, we had a wave of terrorism, and then that's led into COVID and all the other situations, austerity that's hitting us, low vibration time after time. We've been hit with COVID. And now we've got a wave of terrorism again that's scraping along.
They don't have any new ideas, mate. There are no new ideas.
Same old play, innit?
The virus has been talked about, planned, written about, simulated and practiced multiple times throughout the last 20 years. That's what SARS, MERS, Event 201, KDEX. There have been 4 or 5 simulations of this event. John Hopkins, Rockefeller, Gates involved with most of them, yeah. So that it's not, you know, they've been telling us this was going to happen. They told us, Fauci said in 18, Trump will be hit by a huge surprise pandemic. It's no surprise, is it? I think he even used the words definitely. I think he even said definitely. It's like
open secret.
Very open, hiding in plain sight, in your face, and that's part of the mockery. These dark occultists believe that's part of the mockery, so that these stupid cattle, that we're telling them what we do. It's like eating a burger in front of a load of cows. Eating a burger in front of a load of cows and laughing at them.
You know what, mate? I was camping one year, and me and my daughter and my mate, we were on our bikes, and there was about 4 or 5 Angus bulls there, and they were doing nasty things to one another. They were defecating all over each other, and I'm thinking, man, I never want a Burger King burger again, but I actually had that thought in my head while I'm watching these animals living. And that is a cannibalistic kind of thought that it's not really good, really, because I shouldn't be thinking about devouring them as they're defecating on themselves. There's something very strange and wrong about that on so many different levels. But guys, I just want to swiftly move you on, because I think you've
comments.
Yeah, this comment here, mate. While I'm looking for this video, I just wanted to put this up. Stephen Lyon, one of my best subbers here. Double LMC, hello, mate. What's your thoughts on George Soros and his role in all?
Funny you should ask that, because Mr. Georgie Schwartz, which is his original name, George Soros is a fake name. Soros is do you know the language Esperanto, which was a made-up language using Latin? This was supposed to be the language of the new European superstate that was created in the 70s, but it never took off. And in Esperanto, Soros means to soar, to fly. So his real name is Georgie Schwartz. He was
and Schwartz is black, so Georgie
Schwartz
Black
means black. Georgie Black. Yeah. So he was in the Second World War. He was his family, as they were Jewish, they were persecuted by the Nazis, but he instantly, as a 12 or 13-year-old, started collaborating with the Nazis, going around taking the riches of other Jews, snitching on them. So he was a proper collaborator, and he talks about it very openly. The way that I conceptualize him is you have economic hitmen. You've heard the book The Economic Hitmen. They go into countries and devour them using loans and stuff. You have medical hitmen, like Bill Gates. George Soros he crosses two different disciplines, philanthropy and the media. So basically, he is the guy that pumps $500 million a year into moving people out of the developing world, giving them Soros-sponsored debit cards and moving them.
Let's call it what it is, Double L. He's playing his part in human trafficking.
Yeah, he's a master human trafficker. He's a master manipulator. He funds revolutions. They're called color revolutions. And Ukraine, all throughout Europe, there are these color revolutions. Black Lives Matter is a color revolution. The color is black. It's funded by George Soros from start to finish. Even on Wikipedia, it says 33. What a significant number. $33 million from George Soros. Warren Buffett, many other people. You can trace the money that goes into Black Lives Matter through AdBlue that goes straight back into the Democrats. They've taken $1 billion. I haven't seen any money that's been spent on any community projects for the black community through Black Lives Matter. And this is what I worked hard to expose it, because it's such a horrible, humiliating insult to the black community that you've got someone like George Soros funding a movement that's doing nothing but sowing division on every level, whether they realise it or not.
Toxifying a demographic, mate. That's all he's doing.
He's also militarising them as well. He's militarising them.
Without a doubt, mate. He's making them more militant than I've ever known.
So when it says defund the police, yeah, what is that really all about? Well, what's good? Well, all these people say, yeah, defund the police, they're killing all the black people, which statistically, if you really look at those figures, and I'll say this on air because I have studied the figures like the back of my hand, black people are not proportionally killed, overrepresented, proportionally killed in America, if you look at how the level in which they interact with the police.
Yes.
Okay. Now, there's a big argument about why they interact with the police so much, and that's a totally separate argument. But the fact is that if you interact with the police at a much higher level, your chances of being shot by the police are higher. There's 350 million interactions a year in America with the police. White people are killed on a higher number, but there are only 12% of the population that are black people. However, I believe it's 30 or 40% of the violent crime, unfortunately, due to many different reasons, is committed by black people. So they have much higher interactions. So when you really study the statistics, what Black Lives Matter are saying is absolute garbage. And there is no truth that cops, okay, there's some racist cops, obviously. There are some very bad cops, obviously, yeah. But
can I ask you, what do you think? Do you think that's down to how, especially in America, how the people from that, black people from that area actually act towards police and authority?
Well, it's a negative cycle. Black people have historically been treated very, very badly. They've been put into ghettos, which is a perpetual cycle of inequity. The police are incentivized to arrest people and for crimes. So by that nature, they go to the places with the most crimes to get the most arrests for their quotas.
It's a vicious cycle.
Yeah, a vicious cycle. It's not. It's more about business and it's more about greed than it is about the colour of anyone's skin.
Of course it is, dude. I mean, let's look at it this way. For the average black person in America, for all the issues, and I know it's totally different in this country, so we can't make totally it a generic argument. Yeah. You know what I mean? But as an average black person living in an average black area, what have they got most to fear? A white police officer or a fellow black man? Knowing the death rates.
Yeah. Here's a really weird statistic. As a police officer, whatever colour you are, you are seven.
If you teach a lot of kids, police hate you. And these kids growing up and they're in the school and you've got these weirdy Marxist fucking professors telling the kids, oh yeah, it's systemic racism, police hate you. when they eventually get accosted by the police, whether it's
critical race
right
theory.
or wrong,
Right. I want to say
their
something, right?
attitude is to kick off, try and run away, and that's why a lot of them get shot. I'm sorry,
Right.
it is because they don't know how to interact with authority, because the Marxist fucking shit weasels have
They've
drilled
been
it
told
out
the
of
police
them.
hate them. They've been told the police hate them, want to treat them like animals, yeah? So this is the problem with critical race theory. I'll give you an example. Critical race theory basically teaches this. If you work in a clothes shop, whatever race or nationality you are, if a white man and a black man walking simultaneously, and you adhere to critical race theory, and you're trying not to be racist, which one should you serve first?
A bit of black man under the critical race theory.
Well, unfortunately, critical race theory would say that you might have chose that black man first because while you're serving the white person, the black man could steal something.
Yeah.
So it actually infers racism. No,
Yeah.
honestly, this is what it
Yeah,
teaches, because
right.
I went to university and they tried to teach me this shit. They actually tried to teach me it.
No, you're right.
And I was like, wait. No. It basically is. It's a way to infer racism in any outcome, and it's a way to enforce the victim and oppressor narrative in every outcome. And it's basically cultural Marxism. It's replaced the proletariat versus the bourgeoisie. So it's a social economical scale. They've replaced it on a race or a gender scale. That's cultural Marxism. So
to train me as a mixed-race person to feel that everyone that I connect with as a white person incessantly wants to oppress me because of the color of my skin. That is the most dangerous inputting of information you could give to any individual.
only someone that hates you would say that. Only someone that had very ill intentions against you.
Already Tesco,
I've
already started. Tesco said they want to segregate everybody again. Have you noticed? Have you noticed all these in the colleges, in the universities in America, they're doing white spaces, right? This is what they want.
Rosa Parks will be turning in her grave, mate.
Wow. Yeah, man. So you've got Sainsbury's, Tesco, you've got all these supermarkets going, oh, well, we need to give black people their own space. Okay, but do you really think it's going to stop there? That's not what they want. They want racism. They want segregation.
I saw an article the other day. It was suggesting that the countryside and cycling was inherently racist.
Yeah, and dog walking. Anyone who's got a dog, particularly the typified a white, what you would class as a middle-class woman walking a dog. She's systemically racist because of that dog, because of where the ethnicity and the heritage of the dog and what the dog represents.
I was a bit afraid coming on your show because apparently, Phil, you're a white supremacist and a Nazi, apparently. So I was a little bit afraid to come on.
And so you should be, sir, because I am a proper wronging. You know what I mean? I don't know how my wife deals with me. Seriously, maybe because she goose steps along with me. We goose stepped down the aisle when we got married several years ago. Maybe that was the clue.
I can picture it. It's right, so guys. Funny though, isn't it? Do you know what? I've never been involved in politics. I've always seen the left-right divide for what it is, the Hegelian dialect. Years ago, when I used to talk about and expose what was going on in the Middle East with the false flag terrorism, I was on that tip for a few years. This was 10 years ago. People always used to say, "Oh, bloody lefty," and I sort of like thought, "What the fuck are you talking about, lefty?" Whatever. I'm trying to expose absolute, blatant media lies and misrepresentations of reality. I have no political affiliation. It was sort of like, oh, anti-war lefty, yeah. And then, like, about 5 or 6 years ago, when I started really closely paying attention, before I came across you, Phil, I started paying attention to the culture split in America. I was glued to it. It was, first of all, very entertaining. Secondly, scary. And that's why I made that tune, Martial Law. I wrote it like 4 or 5 years ago because I saw what's happened in America. I was like, I really hope that doesn't come here. You know, people on one side dressed in patriot colours, Antifa on the other side. And it's like, it's
weaponized.
Yeah, weaponized. Yeah, they have weaponized people. And
you know,
and it's crazy.
I still talk to people now that still blame this on Trump. I was talking to my sister-in-law who lives in Florida. She was just on her way to go and vote. And she also admitted that her life under the Trump administration has been beneficial for her.
Yeah, my American family love Trump. They say everyone's better off. Everyone's got a better car. Everyone's loving it.
But at the same time, when they look at the polarization of the country, they don't think of the left or far left agenda, the Antifas that have been creating the division. They want to assume, because the media have been perpetuating this, that Trump as the one that's ignited the far left agenda. Not
that seed was planted in the 60s. The Frankfurt School, the cultural Marxists that came over to the academia in America, Yale, Harvard, they came over in earlier than that, and they were cultural Marxists. They hated the American dream. They were Jews that had been kicked out of Germany, escaping the Nazis, and they hated it. So they started sowing, Freud, Descartes, a number of them. I learned all about them at uni. Postmodernism, the postmodernists basically. So attacking the family, attacking all the notions of gender, igniting racial divide. They write about it very openly, and now we are literally seeing the fruits of that labor. That's what BLM is. That's what Antifa is. That's what Me Too is. And that's why I won't shut up about it, because it's mind poison.
Yeah. Warmongers. The left have turned into warmongers. Have you noticed? The left have turned into warmongers. Yeah. You know what? Talk about Libya. You want to talk about racism and slavery, but you know what? Fucking talk about Libya gets right on my tits. You know what I mean? Because it's sort of compartmentalized social engineering, brainwashing, where they can they can chant on and high five the most horrific shit. But it's cool to tell a boy to remove his penis at 8. You know what I mean? It's fucking insane. You don't want to talk about Libya. You know what I mean? Where slaves are being sold right now. You want to call Donald Trump a racist when Biden called them all.
Let me just nudge across a little bit here, guys. Now you've mentioned Trump, because we've been going for 2 hours here. This is the longest stream I have done, right? And let me tell you, it's the most enjoyable, it's the most informative, and awesome. I think at this point now, we can safely say we've got the 3 tuning forks resonating together. And that is brilliant. So while I'm on this subject, guys, we're on the subject of Trump. And I know this means a lot to you, Double L, because I watched your WhatsApp chat, and I seen what time you must have gone to bed last night, or should I say this morning, mate? What's going on? It was something like 5:30. You were still up on WhatsApp.
Yeah. I mean, I should have realised by about 2:30 nothing was really going to come out of last night. But yeah, I had a little MAGA party.
Go for it, mate. Well, I was sorting the stream out today. I was getting various screenshots, doing little bits of whatever I need to do to build up the stream. The wife was sat in here. I was sat in here. The telly was on. We had BBC as the rolling news on, just because I wanted to hear their coverage, okay? And I couldn't believe what had happened. It's something I'd seen on many videos before, and it's almost like, is that really how I interpret it? And I actually uploaded it before. Now, I'm going to play it you guys and see if you get the same vibe as me, as this is supposedly unbiased media. Just check it out, see what you think.
He's garnered already somewhere in the region of 3 million more votes than he did 4 years ago. So this hasn't been necessarily a flash in the pan, Donald Trump. This has been voters based on the past 4 years, not on the prospect of what a Donald Trump presidency might be, but actually the past 4 years, saying, yeah, I sign up for 4 more years.
Oh, we seem to have lost Will, and I was just admiring there the gorgeous autumnal morning you've got there in Washington, Jane. So just...
Was that someone being slightly neutral or pro-Trump?
That was one of their very own correspondents. That wasn't a neutral...
Off with his head.
He should not have done that, Double L. And do you notice that she gave the game away? Because one of the commenters mentioned it when I first uploaded it, and I thought the fact that as an anchor, as soon as he was cut off, she did not even go anywhere near what he was talking about. In fact, to make it more open, she started talking about how nice a day it was where the other female correspondent was.
She didn't even address the fact that they'd been cut off or apologise for the technical difficulties. That is more telling than the facts. You know, the first thing, if that happens, the first thing you do, I'm really sorry for the technical difficulties, and they have a little moment. But yeah, that.
Let me just drop it again, guys, for people, so now they know the context and watch it with that context in mind, because I thought it was going crazy.
He's garnered already somewhere in the region of 3 million more votes than he did 4 years ago. So this hasn't been necessarily a flash in the pan, Donald Trump. This has been voters based on the past 4 years, not on the prospect of what a Donald Trump presidency might be, but actually the past 4 years, saying, yeah, I sign up for 4 more years.
Oh, we seem to have lost Will, and I was just admiring there the gorgeous autumnal morning you've got there in Washington, Jane. So just...
That is the baitest thing I've ever seen. I studied the media with a level of like almost perverse intensity. I would guarantee that they had been briefed within the first 5 seconds of him talking. Holy shit, right, we're about to cut the stream. You could tell by how smooth their reaction was. There was not a single moment of hesitation. There's no looking left and right. There's no looking for direction. There's no listening in the ears, yeah? They had been briefed as soon as he started talking. We have to cut this immediately. You've got 5 seconds to talk about something. And they go, yes.
Wow.
That is a very significant moment.
Did you see that, Phil? When Nancy
What's that,
Pelosi
mate?
just went all... Did you see that one with Nancy Pelosi where she went all MK Ultra? She was in an interview and the guy's talking, so she goes, good morning, Sunday morning, and then just starts
malfunctioning. Yeah.
Did you see that? Yeah, you know, like a fucking programming bro. It's insane.
Wow.
And you get out, you know, they're on the telly constantly, but there is severe censorship going on, and it to me it's like they're shouting into a pillow. Every fucking Democrat in America is sort of screaming into a pillow, going, "This isn't real. This isn't real," and they're sort of trying to convince everybody else. And it takes one person, I think you've got a point, and they vilify, you know, and it gives them this you know excuse to carry on with the craze, but they're just screaming into a pillow, having a global fucking tantrum.
It's amazing how overt it is when you've got an objective view on things, on how they really overtly try and create another perception for people.
And they're not doing a very good job of it either. They're not doing it. They're sloppy. I almost, you know, sometimes I really do question if there's a possibility that instead of a struggle or a battle, we could actually be seeing the results of a predetermined event and a disclosure. Because I've heard of this theory. I've heard of this theory that at the end of the day, if you look at what's happened over the last couple of years, a lot of people who are alleged to be evil agents of the global elite have been acting very bait, exposing themselves, even in interviews. People like Bill Gates, he chuckles about loads of people dying. It's I do wonder that sometimes. I do wonder if that's got any gravity, because it would make a lot of sense with some of the things we see. Like, it does seem like it's a mass disclosure event. The things that have been uncovered since lockdown, people would not have believed it.
Well, let's look. Now you've mentioned lockdown cases. Let's look at it like this. Within a couple of hours, this is going to happen.
Christmas is going to be different this year, perhaps very different. But it's my sincere hope and belief that by taking tough action now, we can allow families across the country. But I'm afraid from Thursday, the basic message is the same.
Open the floor, guys. What do you say to that?
I have a feeling it won't be 4 weeks.
You know why I think the elites are having a hard time? It's because, you know, what I was saying, like, you've got the people that they're employing, obviously, that are falling for this, you know, this line, this Marxism line. They haven't got the critical thinking skills, unfortunately. So when it comes to these big sort of complex scams, they always seem to get caught, because I don't think the people that are involved on a lower level have the critical thinking skills to actually pull what they want off, and they're panicking. So they're moving everything up quick. You know what I mean? And try to just, you know, drown
Well, it's
them
the same, isn't it, Nicky?
in
In a way, on an innocent vessel-like mentality, if you're not honest, doesn't your deeds show up more than if you was of true, honest intention? Being genuine, in other words. You know what I mean? Someone would be able to see if I'm being contrived right at this moment, rather than if I'm being truly genuine with you guys. You'd see it. You know what I mean? Even if I'm good at masking it, the people will go, man, I know what.
Discernment. We've got it. Yeah, it's discernment. We have it, so we can judge people by their words and their actions and their history. You know what I mean? We have discernment because we're not, you know, we've not been sort of told, don't think for yourself. We're going to think for you. You know, the whole Elon Musk thing. You know what I mean? I'll tell you, I've just sent a fucking balloon man to Mars. Love it. And they all go, yay, thank you. You know what I mean? You know, but we have a thing called, you know, we have a brain. It's that simple. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you know, I think we're going to be okay as long as we can sort of, you know, convince people to trust their gut, trust their mind, trust what you see with your eyes. You know what I mean? You know, I mean, I know these, you know, you've got to be able to sort of encourage people to think, look, they're not as hard and they're not as powerful as they make themselves out to be. Yes, they're weak. They don't have the fucking numbers. They don't have the numbers. We have the numbers. You know what I mean? And they're trying to convince the small population, which they have a grip hold of. You know what I mean? Anybody under 30, well, most people under 30, they're trying to convince us that they're bigger than what they are. And they've got the followers and they've convinced them that everybody else believes what they believe. You know, you've got
they
people
can't do it without a
lies
cooperation, mate.
because it, you know,
they need your
you know what I mean? They're doing it. Yeah.
It's like in the Soviet Union.
Yeah, and we don't.
In the Soviet Union, they didn't just have some soldiers shoving people into ovens. They convinced everyone to kill themselves and to kill each other. They turned everyone against each other. In the Soviet Union, everyone was anyone could be the military police. Anyone could be a spy. Even people in your own family. So everyone was turned against everyone else. No one trusts anyone. It's exactly what they're trying to do now. But instead of using the state and being a dissenter, they're using a virus. It's exactly the same MO. And it's very easy to see.
Very cruel.
I'll tell you what, guys, I can't last. My fiance is going to kill me if I.
Yeah, same here. You know what? This has been an absolute gem of a stream.
Do you want to come on my show, Phil?
I would love to, mate, because I see the format of your show and I really like it with the drum and bass. Your friend sounds really interesting. I'd love to have a chat with him alongside you at some point as well, because I'd love to tap into his producing and whatnot. Honestly, I was in fraud today watching some of your shizzle and like, man, beats. I'm like, what's going on here? And he's like, yeah. Should we just put some hip hop on? Yeah. Let's just put a bit of this on.
That was just what he had on one memory stick. Like if he had like the Serato here.
Up here and like, here we go. I'm like, what, man? These guys are sick.
Next time we do it, we will have like a whole setup over there rather than just on the computer. It'll be proper next. That was just a little test.
It'd be great to do a Christmas thing with us all if we could interlink that on a virtual thing, because we're all musically minded. We can all have something and just have this marathon of you play your bit, we'll play our bit. We'll all
little half-an-hour sets with lots of different people. Yeah, you can do that on Zoom, I'm sure.
Wicked. We'll have to maybe arrange that. Right. Okay. So we're going to call it a day here, guys. I think Nicky's muted. Right. Double L. It's been fascinating. Thank you for your time and your patience and your information here. People have loved you. How can they best reach you?
Okay. So online, I always appear as double LMC. The word double, then L, then MC. So that's YouTube, brand YouTube, Instagram with underscores. On Facebook, don't go on. I'm trying to keep my Facebook profile. So all my work is on YouTube and brand new YouTube, double LMC. The show is Rise Above. Share it with your mum, your dad, your nan. It's hardcore red pill material. It's designed specifically for people that have no idea about any of this stuff. It's very palatable for total normies, but it's also got some really deep information for people that have already been doing their research. COVID 1984 is a 6-step program of de-indoctrination. If you go into videos, de-indoctrination against the situation we're currently against. So share my work. This weekend on Saturday, I'm speaking in Farnborough, in the town centre somewhere. On the 14th, I'm in Truro. On the 21st, I'm in Liverpool. So I'm going to be out and about, spreading the message, trying to empower other people to say it's okay to stand up and say no.
You're doing it so well, mate. You're an inspiration for people. And
thank you, man.
You are. Keep doing what you're doing. And I'll do whatever I can in terms of sharing your material. We've got a connection.
That means a lot, mate. Thank you, man.
Mate, tuning forks. That's all we've got to remember there, dude. Tuning forks. And we're all in sync here. I think Nikki has got to go as well. So any final words, Nikki, mate, before you go? Do you want to get going now, Double L?
Man.
That'd be awesome. Thank you so much. I'll message you, Phil. Thanks so much for coming on. Nikki, lovely to chat with you as well, mate.
Yeah, man.
Guys,
Yeah, man.
rise above.
No problem,
Don't rise up,
please.
rise above.
Stay blessed, mate. Stay conscious. See you later, sir. Nice one. Right, come on, Nikki.
Yeah, I'm sorry about this. I thought I would have done it through my laptop and I would have had a good connection and all that, but fucking, I'm an absolute retard when it comes to this shit. So I'm gonna do it through my OBS next time. But yeah, man, people know where to find me. Get links in the description. I better get the tea on, otherwise Darcy's gonna whoop my ass. Right, peace out. I'm gonna work on
we don't need no ass whooping.
Yeah.
Say hello to Darcy and tell her I'm sorry. All right, mate.
Yeah, man.
See you in a bit.
Nice one for everybody.
Yes! Whoa. That was awesome. That was frigging awesome. That was deep. That was intellectual in parts. I didn't touch on one story that I really wanted to touch on, which is beautiful locks that he's got. I really wanted to rib him over that, particularly when I'm follically challenged. And he's coming on with all his hair swinging everywhere, you know what I mean? Looking like some Adonis. Seriously. Not on my freaking channel, you know. That's the only gripe I've got with him. Other than that, he's a great guy. Love the engagement. Love where he's at mentally. And you can hear, man, the guy's the most eloquent guy that I've heard in ages. Yes. It was brilliant, wasn't it? It was brilliant. And, you know, there'll be more of it. You can see. Check out this guy's channel. Check out Nicky's channel. They're both talking sense there. They both got very legitimate points. And you can see 3 tuning forks together, the resonance. Jesus, the vibration that come out here. My God, I'm tingling, guys. So thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, mate. Thank you very much for sitting out. I mean, nearly 2.5 hours. 2.5 hours. My wife's going to kill me. Seriously, but it's been worth it. If you don't see me again, then, you know, I'm going out on a high, aren't I? So other than that, guys, thanks to Double LMC. Thanks to everything, what he's doing down there. Keep the good work going. Thanks to Nicky, the Pocket Rocket Locket. And thanks utmost to you guys, whether you're watching now and you've patiently sat through 2.5 hours, or retrospectively you sat through 2.5 hours. Either way, I hope you got something from it. Hope it makes your resonance vibrate a little bit higher. Other than that, guys, thank you very much. I love you all. Until the next time.
I love you. 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 Even the pissing haters. I love you. 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 I love you.